Good morning. Okay. Oh, Carrie, that's so great. I'm so happy. I hope you have a beautiful day outside. Oh my gosh, never waste a day like that. Absolutely. We'll be here when you come back inside. Thanks for coming, Carrie. Good morning. Oh, that's so fun. I love it when it's a beautiful day out. I think my mic keeps going in and out, but maybe it's just in my ear. Anyway, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to all my little friends. I should probably close my window, but it's so warm. Easily, how are you feeling? How are you doing? I hope you're doing okay. This is really unusual. Why is I should check and see if my sound actually sounds. Oh, it's warm here. Ooh, what's this? What's the temperature? Oh, I'm so glad. Meowing star. Yep, it's time. It's time to bake. It's time to bake. Oh my goodness, do I have a lot lined up for us this morning? Plus, I have one hell of a bullshit congressional hearing to endure with you. I'm sorry, I'm going to turn my fan up a little bit. Tell me if it's distracting. It's so damned hot. It's so damned hot. I'd like to be. It's only 61. How is that possible? Feels like 90. Maybe it's just like the what is that? What is that? Maybe that's like the not dew point, but what's that? Humidity. It's the humidity. Let's see what the humidity is. I'm just curious. Uh Very warm with plenty of sunshine today. High of 88. La, 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 la. Okay, humidity. Oh my god. That's why I feel it. The humidity is at 74%. I hate humidity. Hi, Neil. How are you? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to my friends. Yes, we have, oh my goodness, friends. We have so much fun things for this morning. It's just not even funny. It's not funny, actually. There's nothing funny about it. I've got one, two, what? No, maybe just okay. I've got one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. God damn, I've got 9 articles to read. We've got a big hearing. Langeros and Langeras. I love that. What a beautiful mesh of languages and made up words. I love made up words. I'm a big made up word fan. It's supposed to rain here. Long wake and bake might be apt. Ooh, how nice. That's nice. I think rain is snuggly. I actually, good morning, butterflies. How are you, darling? So this morning I was, just surfing YouTube, as is one, as one does, and I what was I doing? I was surfing YouTube. Oh, and I found a camera. You know how they have those live cameras all over YouTube? I don't know if you guys get that as much as I do. Maybe I do because I watch them once in a while or have them on in the background. But anyway, the point is, I saw this one this morning that was what was it? I think it was New England. Yeah, I think oh no, it was the Hamptons. It was the Hamptons, which is not a place I've ever been to, and I don't really have any desire to go. Um, so it's not that I don't like the Hamptons. It's just that I don't like rich people, and so there's no way I would want to go to a place that I can go to other places that have less rich people, right? You know what I mean? Anyway, so that's just a me thing. So I stopped on this one, and it was raining, and it just looked so snuggly. So I don't know, Neil, if you're getting that same New England rain or I guess that's New York, but whatever. I don't know if you're getting the same, but boy, it did look quite snuggly. Quite snuggly. So that's great. Oh, how nice. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wake and Bake with Lolo. I'm Lolo, and we're awake, so that check. We're gonna bake soon. Not check yet. And let me. I do want to check the video. I have another thing to play. I have 3 video. No, do I? Yeah. No. No. Yes, I do. Hold on. Where does it start? 39. Okay, so we might start. This morning I have a start. I'm going to start with a little piece by Heather Cox Richardson, who's um, an amazing historian. Yeah, Neuralink crap. Jim, Christine No made a visit to Fort Derrick yesterday and ended up being taken to a hospital. That's the whole reason I started tuning into the poop bucket convoy. I was working at Fort Detrick. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow, Jim, I did not know that was your origin story. That's so good. Butterflies. J Rans, good morning, bestie. Neuralink Graft v host. Is that me? Am I? Wait. Let's see. She was rejected. Oh, I see. Neuralink Graph v host. She was rejected. It's not food poisoning. It's her Neuralink was rejected. You know how? Okay, I don't know if any of you have had body jewelry in your lives. Maybe you have. Maybe you haven't. I don't know. Anyway, so in body jewelry, like I got a piece. What was that? What are those called when you have like a gem that's like put under a dermal or something? Whatever, dermal something. Anyway, I got one in my chest once, which I really loved. It was really beautiful. But your skin literally pushes that shit out. Like, cause it's like, no, you're not putting subdermal. Thank you, Meon Star. So I loved it. Oh my God, I loved it. Jade, really? See, I just fucking loved my little gem in the middle of my décolletage. It really pissed me off. Terrible. Anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. My body. Wait. Poop bucket memories. A memory light the corners of my mind. Hey, you know what's really interesting is Jim. Remember? I don't know if you were thought this way, but I thought, well, eventually this will just get tired and people will move on to other things. Oh no. And I myself am somewhat guilty of it, although I would probably posit that I've tried to maintain a certain distance from certain things, but maybe I haven't. I don't know. I think I've done better than I thought I would. But boy, the embroilment and the drama and the self-inflicted wounds that are caused by shitty people is really oh no, actually it's quite entertaining, frankly. I love it. You love to see it. You love to see that people that fuck with other people eventually get fucked with. And I'm sorry. I don't have any time to worry about you. I've got other things to worry about. Real people in real situations facing real challenges. Not your self-inflicted wounds. I don't know. I'm just enjoying this moment, okay? I'm sorry. I get it. I deserve it. Bad signal today. No butterflies from the news sphere. Yeah, she was rejected from the news sphere. God, you have to at least pretend you can be of benefit to those boys. They don't really love the they're first of all, I think they're intimidated. Well, never mind. I won't go on. But anyway, yeah, Crispy Gnome is not going to be welcome in the new sphere. I have a feeling she's going to get in real trouble, you guys. Can I just tell you? It may not happen on my or your timing or our timing, but I predict that Crispy Gnome is going to have a bad life. I really do. I think she is committing crimes against humanity, I think. And I think there is going to be a jail cell and no Botox shots in her future. Some rich people are cool. Then there is the snooty, I'm better than you crowd that I can't stand. I'm with you. Yeah, I know. Well, and I don't know about you, butterflies, but I worked in nonprofit for a couple decades and mostly raising money and stuff like that. And I'll tell you, there's not many. there, there's not many. There's not many. I think Crispy should go to the ostrich farm, Neil. Are we still worried about the ostriches? Are they dead yet, or what? What happened to the ostriches? Are we worried about them? Maybe she should go visit them. I think they have COVID, right, or something. I don't even know. You had a belly button ring. I know. I have a belly button ring. I do have that. I've had that for a long time, so I've had that. But yeah, the subdermal, man, that thing just pushed right out. Like, I was really disappointed. I was really disappointed. Let's see. We had big thunderstorms. One of our dogs is scared to death of them. I had to cuddle with her all night. Oh, Jim, that's so great. I think that's so cool. I mean, I don't like seeing any animals scared, but it's nice that you were there to cuddle. Howdy, Lee! Whoop, whoop. One more day closer to vacation for Lee. One more day closer to vacation for Lee, Lee. Had. What do you mean had? I had a belly button ring. Oh, it doesn't work anymore. My body doesn't like my piercing, so I got tattoos and his earrings. Ooh, that's nice, meowing star. I like that. Butterfly says, morning, morning. Neil, haven't heard about the ostriches lately. Yeah, we don't care about them anymore? Okay, that's fine. I'm not entirely sure I cared about them in the beginning, but I didn't. It didn't make sense to me. Seemed like a bunch of chuds crying about their money making farm. I guess that was it. Meaning exactly what though, Jay? I don't know. I think we're just like maybe we just don't like. Maybe we don't like foreign objects in our bodies. I don't know. Anyway, I'm wasting your valuable time. Uh, we have so much. And I think what I want to do is start with saints that never decomposed. What? What, Jay? Is that what you said? It was a chud issue. Fuck them. Exactly. Oh, I'm sorry. Your farm and your biolab isn't working. I have to sit in on a meeting next Monday, but no big deal comes with the job. Yeah, I get that, Lee. It's like on my vacations, there was always something I either had to call in for or be present or write up or whatever. It just is what it is. I mean, at a certain point, they fucking tell you. They fucking make it so that you can't possibly miss anything because we're all so very important, which is true. We are all very important, but for different reasons, I think personally. Oh my God, what the eye left of that. Wait, what? Really? Oh my God, the eye left of that tidbit in my school. What? I didn't. I want to hear what you. I want to understand what you're saying. One duck's heart was reportedly preserved uncorrupted. Really? Really, oomph. Interesting. I'll be on the patio drinking coffee, no camera. There you go. That's my bestie right there. Really? 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 Is it though? Is it reportedly? That doesn't Was it independently verified? Was it independently verified? But by religious fan. Okay, well so who believes them? It's in their best interest to lie about it. What? Yeah, they must have moved on from ostriches. I don't know to what. They also are all eating each other's faces. I can't with I kind of called it. I'm gonna brag for a minute here. I'm gonna brag for a minute. I am so proud of being exorcised from almost every community in the convoy. I am so grateful that I preserved independence from most entanglements. And I had I probably had some leopard eating too. I didn't really, whatever. I self-inflicted some wounds on myself sometimes. Uh, oh, you will, Jay. We'll have. You know what we need? We need a gal squad Zoom coming up just to kind of catch up. I feel like I haven't caught up with you guys in months. Like literal months. Like I talk to you every day, but I don't feel like I really have had quality time with you guys. I feel like we need to do that because I know you would enjoy some of the karma. No, Jane, it's more base than that. Like months. I know. Like it. All right. So again, this morning, yeah, convoy karma. Yeah. Um, convoy fallout. What do I know? I'm just a boring little show over here on the internet, which is true. I mean, there's times when I think it's super boring. Okay, sorry, I digress, and I'm being kind of silly right now. The real convoy of Twitter, the real convoy, the real convites. Okay, so we have quite a few things this morning. First of all, well, we've got two really weird things. Okay, well, I guess one's not really weird, but one is they are. Oh God, I tried, Jane, but things happen. Being relatively new and thus out of the loop, I am just imagining a convoy of ostriches traveling around. That's kind of what it is. That's kind of what it is. I think that's really a good way. Yeah, I am a hated troll. I really am hated. And I think that's actually worked to my benefit just for my own sanity. Now, it hasn't put me on any kind of like, great path. I'm not saying that. But I managed, I think, to at least, you know, uh, I don't know. I just kind of came through it in a different way. Not a better way, just a different way. And it probably wouldn't have been different than it has been. Although I will say, I appreciate the people who have held me back. Oh yeah, butterflies knows all about 'em. um, yeah, but boy, the minute yeah, I yelled at someone about you being a hated troll the other day. Thank you, Jane. Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna say the only thing I ever really, I mean, I definitely was a troll. That was my entire reason for living. So yeah, this is why countries don't trust the USA. But my trolling was around calling people on like fact checking and kind of calling them on their bigotry and shit like that, which is trolling. And nothing makes me so special that I'm like better than anybody. I know, right? But uh, I don't know. It did kind of, and for some reason, I just wasn't ever really like in with the in crowd, the different in crowds that there were. I never was fully part of that, fully part of any of them. So I don't know. I never, I that actually worked, I think, to my advantage emotionally. No, I mean it wasn't a great journey because I pretty much took everything really personally a lot of the times, and people acted really shitty towards me and still do to this day. But I don't know. I feel like I just kind of managed to, stay out of some of it. I don't know. Anyway, all to say, I'm grateful. And he was a Mike Flynn normalizer. Oh, yeah, Mike Rothschild. Yeah. I don't know. He has a problem. I don't know him, by the way. So I don't know. And also, I have a lot of the people who are friends of his blocked because they've come after me and doxed me, uh, et cetera, et cetera. There's a long story to that one, which I will tell. They think I won't, but I will. Um, and so I don't know Mike. I don't have any problem with him, but at the same time, he seems to have a real problem with Jim Stewartson. And there's a bunch of people who don't like Jim. Yeah, it's this bad. It's like 12 years old. And they don't like me because I'm friends with Jim, which seems like an odd thing to do. So a lot of this comes from anti-Jim Stewart's and stuff, which is their problem. It's not my problem. But yeah, Mike is Mike. They love to take people down, frankly, because I never hear from them until I get a little bit of attention. Isn't that interesting? I don't hear about how fat I was or what a loser I am or how old I am or whatever. I don't hear about that until I've gotten some attention. And so you have to think about it in this way. I don't know those people that are associated with him and his friends. I don't know them personally. I've never, you know, I've only reacted when they've come after people that I care about, which I think is, something that people do on the internet. And so I don't know why him and his big account need to come after me, but I suspect, I don't know, I have suspicions about why it is. But at the end of the day, I just can't worry about it. They've been doing this since I publicly have been friends with Jim, and they do it to everybody. It doesn't really matter who you are. And that's kind of weird. That's a weird way to live your life, frankly. And there's a lot of battles we have to fight. And so if you claim to be on the side of fighting the good fight, then what do you give a shit about an old lady in a dinosaur suit? Yeah, so it's not about that. It's not about anything, Jane. It's not about anything. It's not about who I am, who I was, who I will be. I pose no threat to any of those assholes. But this is what they do. The minute you get attention, man, they came into that Tennessee holler. You notice they came into the Tennessee when the Tennessee holler noticed the dinosaur, they swarmed those replies with manufactured video clips and shit. So you know what? I just laugh. I'm like, I'm like, really, really? So I do what I do. I do what I do. I keep on keeping on. I know who I am. I know what I care about, and I don't claim to be, anything other than what I am. So I think everything that people say about other people in that context reflects much more on them, much more on them than it does on me. So I don't really worry too much about it. Yeah, I know. I know. I used to say it all the time. Yeah. I used to watch you sometimes with the convoy. I never understood how that was fun. Yeah, it wasn't. Log off. Yeah, log off and touch grass or go to a protest. It was the lady in the dino suit yelling at that Bakersfield IRT guy that made me go, wait, who's this awesome person calling out a MAGA chat to his face? And then, whoa, cool, meowing star, fuck yeah. Yeah, Joe's a piece of shit. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. All right, I again, I was blocked from convoy chats pretty much within the first month, as were a lot of people. And then people made, alts and stuff like that. I had one alt and I barely used. It was Laughing Lola. I mean, it was literally me. Uh-oh. We got trouble. Oh man, I wasted the whole time talking about idiots and now I didn't read my things. Oh, the bullies win again. Anyway, I think they're all a bunch of bullies, and I don't understand what their fucking drama is, and I wish they'd get over it. But I'm going to tell you right now, some of the folks from the convoy are not having a very good time right now. And frankly, self-inflicted wounds, and I'm here for it. Don't be a dick. That's my lesson from the convoy. Don't be a dick. Do the right thing. Yeah, I'm going to bring back that podcast that I had for the convoy. Don't you worry about it. Oh, Jay, don't do that. You're so goofy. You're goofy. But you know what I'm going to do? Oh, this is good. This. Thank you. Oh, I really needed that. All right, we have a dumb hearing we have to watch. I love Dave. Dave Troy's so smart. He's really smart. Okay, now this is what's really dumb, okay? Oh, okay, so I can't even believe this. All right, so we have this morning. It does slap, doesn't it? Anyway, I wish everybody peace. I always have, I always will. If you have a problem with me, you can talk to me about it. I got an email. Hey, call me. But I don't wish anybody any harm, but I'm going to tell you karma's a bitch. And that's just the way it is. And sometimes karma comes for me too. So none of us are immune. But I would think about it. I would think about it. If I were you, I would think about it. What is that? What's that? There's a song about, oh, well, there's Let It Go. Let it go. Let it go. But yeah, I don't like people that try and shut down other people's voices. I don't do it. I don't do it unless you're a fucking chud or a fascist. Then I'm going to do it. But other than that, I don't have time. I got a lot of things and I have a very small brain and I don't have a lot of time to figure out how to make everything work. So I've got to focus on that. I've got to focus on living. Okay, wait. So what do we got here? All right, we have two hearings well, actually we have three hearings this morning. Damn it. Well, not hearings, but we have two hearings and Putin is supposed to take questions in a couple minutes from journalists, from international journalists, which means it's not just the Russians, which I think is kind of interesting. And then we have this ridiculous Biden's mental acuity hearing. Oh, no, I shit you not. We have a mental acuity hearing for Joe Biden. I know. Aren't you kind of shocked that he's still the president? I didn't even know. I didn't know. I didn't know. Okay. Whoops. Oh, I fucked up. Hold on. Sorry about that. Okay. So this morning, first we've got this nonsense. Right. And then I have 9 articles, and I don't know. I mean, I hope we get through all of them, but I'm not sure, and they're all like relatively new. Oh, articles. I really want to read them, so hopefully we'll get some time here. One of the legal nerds signed off last night anticipating, Supreme Court opinions this morning? Oh. Well, then it is a big Wednesday. Me too, Meowing Star. It's going to be a big Wednesday then. Poopy. All right, so we've got this. Then I have Putin taking questions from international journalists. I don't know if that's really going to be anything worth watching, but whatever. And then I have this one I wanted to play, but it's 7 minutes. I don't think we're gonna have time to play it. But I really want to hear what Heather Cox Richardson has to say about the Trump administration and this big, beautiful bill. Yeah, Neil, why? You're not being ignorant. Why is there a legislative hearing into the mental state of a private citizen when we've got a warmongering King? What's that? King George? The madness of King George? We've got a mad king right now. Here, today. And I'm going to tell you, I almost said something really bad. Maybe the Dems should. Yeah, exactly. Maybe we should talk about Ronald Reagan. Yeah, let's do that. Hey, speaking of which, last night we watched a documentary called The 13th, which is available on Netflix, and it really gives a wonderful overview of the historical challenges of for Black people in this country, and goes into some good detail in kind of the how, the how and why post 13th Amendment. of the Constitution. So I would highly recommend the 13th. It's available on Netflix. And then don't forget, tonight at 5 p.m. PT, we're going to re-show Mountainhead. And then on Thursday, we're going to do a special documentary night with just about an hour-long piece from PBS called Juneteenth, Faith and Freedom. And so I haven't seen it. I'm very much looking forward to seeing that. And so that's on Discord on Thursday night. And then Friday night, we'll have our movies. We're going to have like total, like, boo. Yeah, let me know, Jay, because right now I have it scheduled for 5 p.m., but I haven't put out the actual, like, thing. So if it's a bad time. Hi, Danny. Good morning, darling. How are you? Yeah, totally. I hope you can. For whoever can. I mean, it might not be many people who want to see that, but I thought I'd put it up again in case people can join in. Good to see you, babes. So yeah, this is what we've got this morning. This is the mental acuity. Can't wait to see who questions him in that. And then I guess we haven't started yet with that. So we'll keep an eye. But let me give you a preview too of some of the things that I have lined up for us to read, which is also interesting. So I want to read this Harper's piece, Trumpism After Trump. Will the movement outlive the man? I thought that looked interesting. Let's see. Oh no. This one is Trump suggests cutting off huge source of Musk's wealth. I just hadn't read this piece. It's from June 5th, so it's a little older, but I'm kind of curious about it. This one, far right appeal to heaven flag flown above government agency. Just like you all have probably seen that this happened. So the Small Business Administration flying the appeal to heaven flag. So J6. This is from this morning, the Unified Command Plan. This change shifts Greenland from the U.S. European Command Area of Responsibility to the U.S. Northern Command Area of Responsibility. Not entirely sure what the ramifications of this change are, but I was curious and I wanted to bring it up in case, if Gal comes in and stuff, she might have some insight into what this type of stuff can mean. Consistent with the president's intent and the interim National Defense Strategic Guidance, this change will strengthen the joint forces' ability to defend the U.S. homeland, contributing to a more robust defense of the Western Hemisphere and deepening relationships with Arctic allies and partners. So I think it's kind of interesting that the change in command for Greenland is very, I don't know. I just don't know what the implications are of it, taking it out of the European command and into the Northern command. So I thought that was something of interest. Can they make that change on their own? Grease Lisa! Yes, I suppose. I don't know. This is part of the insight that I think it would be interesting to find. So that was one thing I wanted to bring up. Let's see, what's this? Oh, God, the fucking Genius Bill passed in the fucking Senate, of all places. 68-30. I'd really like to see who voted for that. So I want to read about that, too. And then this is the Krasensteins, and I fucking hate the Krasensteins, okay? So let's be clear, I'm not a fan. But I just noticed this. The White House sent emails to multiple influencers and Republican politicians to provide them with talking points to justify U.S. intervention in Iran, which is not surprising. Oh, yeah, this one, Ed had put this up, and actually I really did want to kind of read. This is Seth Abramson's Substack on this. Donald Trump is indisputably the co-author of the Israeli war against Iran, and his Iran plot is easily the most significant betrayal of his MAGA voters yet. So that'll be interesting. And then this one, I think I put it in the archive. Did I get this in the archive? Yeah. There it is. White House eyes rarely used power to override Congress on spending. This is Russ Vogt. I'm telling you, it's all fronts they're getting us. They're really, really, really... It's all fronts, right? Like it is all motherfucking fronts. Including them, they got sent that. Oh, did they get sent that email? I didn't read it. J for Genius. Oh, you fucking asshole. Anyway, so we're going to read that. Hopefully, we're going to have time to read that too. And then I think, oh, yeah, this was also something I found, or I don't know who brought this up, if I just found it. And that's what Don Jr.'s. I mean, they're all about it. I haven't read about the phone yet. I'm sure the phone is really. Jay, do you happen to know if that phone is connected to any of the prior phones that we've been interested in, like the Patriot phone that was Mike Flynn's and Eric Prince? Didn't they collab on a phone? And then the precursor to that, which was the Freedom phone, with that little incel dick that created that little thing. I can't tell if any of these phones are somehow related or another iteration. Like, is the Trump phone just another iteration of the failed Mike Flynn phone? Why didn't he call it Flynn phone? You're welcome, Mike. I know Mike Flynn right now is very busy as head of the PTA for West Point, so he's very, very busy right now. He can't possibly be asked to do any of this. So yeah, there you go. Mr. Putin, are you going to take questions from journalists or not? What is happening right now? What is happening right now? Gosh, I could have played the goddamn. I know, it's bad, Jay. It's all bad. That's the problem. That's the problem. There's no one to save us. There's no one. It's just insane. It's insane. It's insane. Kill switch phone. Wait, I'm just so curious. Like, oh, okay. Oh, I did that. Okay. Sorry. I thought they did that. All right. Let me see. I'm just so curious. Mike. Let's see here. Let's see here. Nope, that's not it. No. Oh, you're getting in too much important stuff. What was it called? What was Mike Flynn's phone called? That wasn't the Freedom phone. Patriot Mobile. That's it. That's it. Yes. Yes. Patriot Mobile. They sponsored the Flynn film and stuff like that. Eric Prince's phone was its own carrier, but Trump's piggybacks. Oh, okay, it's not linked. Okay, thank you so much, Jay. I knew you would know that. I know, Grace Lisa. I'm thinking of going back to a flip phone too. Yeah, Patriot Mobile. That's it. But was that the Eric Prince one? No. What is the Eric Prince's phone? What was that called? Probably being too loud. Unplugged. Unplugged. Yes. That's it. Unplugged. Eric Prince has a secure smartphone. Oh, yeah, okay. Here we go. I am leaving. No. Oh my God. I hate you. Eric Prince wants to sell you a secure smartphone that's too good to be true. MIT Technology Review obtained Prince's investor presentation for the Red Pill phone, which promises more than it could possibly deliver. This is from August 2022. Yes, that would be him, meowing star. Eric fucking Prince of Darkness. Eric Prince's pitch to investors was simple, but certainly ambitious. Just pay 5 million euro and cure the biggest cybersecurity and privacy plagues of our day. The American billionaire. He's a billionaire? Oh my God. Oligarch. The American billionaire, best known for founding the notorious private military firm Blackwater, who murdered people, by the way, which became globally infamous for murdering Iraqi civilians and threatening U.S. government investigators. My God. Was pushing Unplugged, a smartphone startup promising free speech, privacy, and security. Untethered from dominant tech giants like Apple and Google. In June 2022, Prince publicly revealed the new phone priced at $850, but before that, beginning in 2021, he was privately hawking the device to investors using a previously unreported pitch deck that has been obtained by MIT Technology Review. It boldly claims that the phone and its operating system are impenetrable to surveillance. Yes, Betsy's brother, that's right. And a mercenary, anti-Muslim mercenary that likes to kill people to get his heart on. It boldly claims that the phone is and tampering, and its messenger services marketed as impossible to intercept or decrypt. Well, you should have given it to Pete Pig's breath then. What's the matter? What's the matter, Eric? Oh my God, is that my dog? Okay, I'm gonna have to walk the dog as we start this thing. Boasting falsely that Unplugged has built the first operating system free of big tech monetization and analytics. Lies. Prince bragged that the device is protected by government-grade encryption. Better yet, the pitch added, Unplugged is to be hosted on a global array of server farms so that it can never be taken offline. One option is said to be a server farm on a vessel located in an undisclosed location on international waters, connected via satellite to Elon Musk's Starlink. An Unplugged spokesperson explained that they benefit in having servers not subject to any governmental law. How does that work? How does that work? The Unplugged. This is why it's not a conspiracy, folks. It's just that everybody benefits from what they're doing, so they do the same thing. Come on. The Unplugged investor pitch deck is a messy mix of these impossible claims, meaningless buzzwords, and outright fiction. The product is a latest example in a decades-long tradition and security-focused smartphones that promise to do far more than your Android or iPhone can to protect you and your data. Ever since Snowden's 2013 revelations about American spying, a new phone has popped up in this market at least once per year. The trend was already so prominent by 2014 that MIT Technology Review called ultra-private phones one of the year's technology breakthroughs. Well, mea culpa. Almost every attempt to build this kind of phone has failed. While none of the experts I spoke with had yet been able to test the phone or read its code because the company hadn't provided access, the evidence available suggests Unplugged will fall wildly short of what it's promised. No device is impenetrable. That's been proven over time, says David Richardson, vice president at the mobile security firm Lookout. The selling points, let me turn this down a little. Oh, it's Foghorn Leghorn's coming in. That's why. He's real happy he's going to go after Joe Biden. Let me try and I'll finish this. Buzzwords like government-grade encryption imply some kind of heightened protection, but as the company never mentions, governments use the same standard encryption as the rest of us. When asked about the phrase by MIT Technology Review, Unplugged acknowledged this messaging doesn't resonate well with our community and said they won't use it moving forward. What? There are two things happening here, said Alan Liska, a cyber intelligence analyst at the cybersecurity firm Recorded Future. There are the actual attempts to make real secure phones, and then there is the marketing BS. Distinguishing between those two can be really hard. Prince told investors the UP phone is built by engineers with deep experience in lawful interception, surveillance, and spoofing capabilities. What could go wrong? While taking various privacy and security enhancements from open source projects, Unplugged President Ryan Patterson told MIT Technology Review via email Unplugged's proprietary operating system developed their own enhancements, including based on knowledge not available to the public, 0 days, and others. A 0-day vulnerability is an unknown security weakness that can be attacked via exploit that can sell for millions of dollars. Unplugged's day-to-day technology operations are run by Iran Karpin, a former employee of Communitake, the Israeli startup that gave rise to the now infamous hacker-for-hire firm NSO Group. There, Karpin built the Intact phone, which the company called a military-grade mobile device. He's also a veteran of Israel's Unit 8200, an agency that conducts cyber espionage and is the country's equivalent of the NSA. But anyone with that experience should be able to see through Prince's claim that the UP phone is impossible to surveil. When I worked in U.S. intelligence, we penetrated a number of phone companies overseas, says Liska. We were inside those phone companies. We could easily track people based on where they connected to the towers. So when you talk about being impenetrable, that's wrong. This is a phone, and the way that phones work is they triangulate to cell towers, and there is always latitude and longitude for exactly where you're sitting. Yeah, it's nothing you do to the phone is going to change that. The UP phone's operating system called Libert OS is a proprietary version of Google's Android, according to an Unplugged spokesperson. It's running on an unclear mix of hardware that a company spokesperson says they've designed on their own. Even just maintaining a unique Android fork, a version of the operating system that departs from the original, like a fork in the road, is a difficult endeavor that can cost massive money and resources, experts warn. For a small startup, that can be an insurmountable challenge. There's such a high volume of vulnerabilities that Android is disclosing and patching on an ongoing basis that you really do need to stay on top of all of those. Okay, we're here.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone.
Oh my
to
God.
this
Why aren't you
judiciary
dead
hearing.
yet?
We have multiple
Marble Mouth.
today, so
Warrior
I'll
Libertas.
introduce my longer statement into the hearing record.
Right?
Today's
Grace
hearing
Lisa?
is about competency.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry if I missed you coming in.
Within the Biden administration.
Yeah, Patriot and Trump phones aren't connected, but it's the same idea. Thank you.
The administration was rudderless. From one crisis to another, the Biden administration
Rudderless, bitch?
failed
You're
to
rudderless.
forward the partisan best to cover up those failures. Having discussed these issues with my colleagues, Senator Cornyn and Schmidt, who requested to lead this hearing, all of us agreed that this committee must discuss this important matter. An important part of this discussion involves
I
I
just want to stop this for a minute. I'm just going to, well, actually, you know what? I'm going to keep him going, but I'm going to shut him up. There also is a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing on the Pentagon budget, which I imagine will also bring into the focus the Iran, the attack on Iran by Israel. So we may jump to that. I'd like to monitor both, but I don't know if I can. Here's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and put them both on screen. The one for Senate Armed Services does have captions. So let me go ahead and make this one. I'll figure it out. Hold on. I got you, babe.
Artisans.
I got you, babe.
Records indicate that the opening of Arctic Frost was an intentionally designed vehicle by which the Biden administration would ultimately prosecute their primary political opponent, President Trump. Then I made emails public relating to the Biden administration's political investigation into Peter Navarro, Tebow, and his other anti-Trump agent, Walter Giardina, were also involved in that case. Whistleblowers have told me
the irony.
Special Agent Giardina openly stated,
as Migos would say, I like to fuck a bitch for the irony.
Even if it meant false predication. Whistleblowers have also told me that Jack Smith's
I love Migos,
deputy,
just so you know.
J.P.
I'm a huge
Cooney,
Migos fan.
wanted to open more cases on Trump. He allegedly justified using compulsory process to obtain more information merely based upon partisan news outlets. And guess who was also allegedly involved in those communications? Well, that's the same person, Special Agent Walter Giardina. All of this is more evidence of law enforcement weaponization that would have never been the light of day, but for whistleblowers. I'll have more to say about this matter later today in another forum. Then we have the Biden FBI's anti-Catholic Richmond memo. That memo used the shoddy research
yeah,
of the
Joe Biden, the big anti-Catholic
Southern Poverty Law Center to accuse
here, we're going to put you over here with the dinosaur.
Violent extremists. Based on the records that I released the other week,
None of this is real.
Wasn't just one FBI document.
Then I think what I'm going to do,
biased
I just don't have enough room on this screen.
But over a dozen. And more FBI field officers were involved than we'd been led to believe. it wasn't just the Biden and Ray FBI that failed the people.
Hey, whoa, that's the
Recently, I
Trump
released
Ray,
records
okay?
showing that the Biden Health and Human Services also failed to address the backlog of over 65,000
You
reports
come near me,
expressing
okay? Just come over
concern
here.
for unaccompanied children. This included 7,346 reports related to trafficking.
Oh,
3
boy.
dozen cases have been accepted by U.S. attorneys for prosecution, with 11 arrests and 3 convictions so far. The Biden administration had a responsibility to do right by the American people. By any metric, they failed. The question is, what did the president actually know or even understand, and who was actually running the government? But regardless, the buck
Who's running
stops
your
with the
government?
president, and President Biden will have to answer to history for what's happened the last 4 years. Now I'm going to turn over the podium to, opportunity to speak, Ranking Member Durbin for his opening remarks, and after that, Senator Cornyn is going to take the chair, and Senator Cornyn and Chairman Schmidt are going to lead the rest of the hearing. Proceed, Senator Durbin.
Thank you, Chairman Grassley. This committee has oversight responsibility over the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Department of Homeland Security. We have a constitutional duty to hold these agencies accountable with public hearings. By this date, in my first year as chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, we had already held 2 major oversight hearings with Biden administration agency heads, including one with the FBI Director Wray on domestic terrorism threats. So far this year, the Republican majority on this committee has not held a single oversight hearing, despite numerous critical challenges facing the nation that are under our jurisdiction. In the last week alone, several events have demanded this committee's immediate attention. The horrific assassination in Minnesota, the treatment of our colleague Senator Padilla by federal agents in Los Angeles, and President Trump's unprecedented deployment.
Okay, wait, I'm going to this.
Senator. My job, our job, Chairman and I, at all times, is to make sure the president has options and is informed of what those options might be and what the ramifications of those options might be.
I appreciate that.
You
Thank
mentioned
you.
the troops in the region. With
I
maximum
expect-
force protection at all times is being maintained.
I would hope that as soon as consideration about action is determined, that the public will be informed about that.
Are you
6
asking
of
him
us
to
on this
commit,
committee
Jean?
just returned from the largest air show in the world. At that, it was very impressive to see the
They're trying,
innovation
meowing
and
star, but they
technology
can't
from
fucking
our,
do it, okay? They can't
industry
fucking do it.
on
I know all the
aerospace.
data they're fucking bringing up
And
now.
one of the concerns that I heard,
It's all the same data that they brought up. So I just want to address that. I know that they're regurgitating all the 2020 election scams. Oh, baby, are we ready for them? Bring it on, Crash Patel. We've been debunking you for the last 5 years plus. So bring it on, bitch. Anyway, yes, I fear it too. But I'm not afraid of them because they're so fucking stupid and they don't know their own data.
from many of the companies that I talked to was about the potential to partner with our allies and partners for innovation, for co-production. And one concern I heard was about the proposed review of the AUKUS agreement. That's after the Australian government has already contributed $500 million to our submarine industrial base.
Presley's
And
91?
American and UK shipbuilders have made capital investments to support the increased demand. So do you disagree with the position that President Trump has taken about AUKUS, that we should move forward? And what is the review expected to produce?
Well, Senator, I think reviews are always prudent. but those reviews actually come after conversations I've had with the Minister of Defense, Healy, in the UK and Marles in Australia. Long personal conversations about the status of this arrangement, both aspects of it. So
Wait,
we
are they pulling us out
reviewing
of
it because
AUKUS?
that's what the Defense Department ought to do to make sure it fits the priorities of the president, and that our defense and shipbuilding industrial base can support, ensure that we're clear on all sides of that, on either pillar. And then on pillar 2, identifying specifically the ways we can work together most meaningfully to co-produce with our industrial base munitions or other capabilities that would be most applicable to the threats we face.
But do you agree that it's important to increase the capability of our nuclear deterrent in the Indo-Pacific, and that AUKUS is one way to do that?
I do, and working through
Thank you.
AUKUS as a
That's-
possible avenue for that is a good thing.
Last week, Mr. Secretary, during the SAC-D appropriations hearing, you reaffirmed the need for an exemption for the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard to your hiring freeze. Senator Collins asked you a very relevant question on that. And since Senator King and I share that shipyard, I'd like to ask you again, because we have not yet heard anything from you or from the Office of Personnel Management about
Karen,
how they're
that's the
responding
point.
to this.
Personal conversations.
DOD has
Fuck
told us
that.
that the Office of Personnel Management needs to review every single new hire one by one at a time when we need 550 people every year just to keep up with the Navy's demand for maintenance and on its nuclear submarines. So will you commit to talking to OPM on this issue?
Yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure, I'll
Senator
tell you
Shaheen.
whatever you want to
Senator
hear,
Cotton.
bitch.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for your testimony and, more importantly, your service.
Oh my God, it's Josh
Secretary
Hawley.
Hegseth,
No,
President,
Tom Hawley.
at a press
Josh
gaggle
Cotton.
just now at the White House said of strikes against Iran, to Senator Shaheen's question, I may do it, I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. You had referred to these questions as presidential level decision, is that right?
You think that's a good
And
thing?
some presidents decide.
I call him Josh Cotton.
But it's your
and Tom
job
Hawley,
to have
because I
contingency
put 'em
plans
together.
for everything that the president
it's
may or may
intentional.
not decide. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And no one should be surprised or scandalized that the Pentagon has lots and lots of contingency plans.
Senator, our job is to have contingency plans.
It's like in Armageddon, Billy Bob Thornton's character Truman, speaking of NASA, could have been speaking of the Pentagon. You're geniuses. You're just thinking stuff up, and you got people in another room backing them up. Is that right?
We plan.
Thank you.
Oh, that was a little
And-
spicy.
Although it's true in every part of the government, it's probably no more true in
Is that a
your
little tiny
department
spicy, or
that
did
it's
I
a
miss
presidential
it?
level decision. This is the president's core constitutional responsibilities as the commander in chief. I mean, it's important what he
I
does
don't really
with
get this.
labor and HUD and the rest, but as the commander in chief, it's the most important role he has, and therefore you're the department where you take the most direct guidance from the president. Everyone in the department has to support the president's decisions once those decisions are made, correct?
Correct, Senator. As I've said, there's only one person that was elected president of the United States.
Yeah.
And the American people
And I
elected him
suck
to make
his
these decisions on their behalf. And
toes
if and when those
every
decisions are
day.
made, the department is prepared to execute.
And I know that you welcome
Schmedium.
and have robust
Jen
policy
Griffey,
debates
Medium.
in the department.
This
and
was
no doubt
supposed
you
to be
have
their
very
budget.
differing views on
It's
many
supposed to be the
questions,
defense
whether it's
budget.
what to do with Iran, or what kind of aircraft or ships we need to build, or what the quality of commissaries are on our bases. And that's welcome. You need that kind of robust debate to make the right recommendations. But once the president's decision has been made on any question, that's final, right? That's your standard?
What's he going at?
The president welcomes, I've watched it in real time, views on all issues from all aspects. But yes, once those have been represented, intelligence is represented, options represented, upsides, downsides, threats, of
Man,
course.
they are
when the
really
president
trying to
makes a
prop
call as
up
the
this little
commander-in-chief,
fleshlight
we will
that
execute.
they've got as
Thank you, 'cause
president.
I know there was some controversy earlier this year inside the department, and not everyone seemed to be on the same page that you and the president are.
You fired your
after presidential
assistants that
decisions
you
had been made, and
handpicked?
you had to make some tough decisions there. and I commend you for those decisions. I think you did the right thing. You have to make sure that everyone stays on the same.
What he's referring to is Signalgate, where get this, because this has been swept under the rug, but we did talk about this in a prior Wake and Bakes. Get this, Pete Hegseth, after the whole Signalgate debacle, went after the very people that he appointed to be his assistants and threw them under the bus. Oh, and not only that, it also peeked out during the investigation that we've never heard about, right? We haven't heard a lot about it. It came out through the investigation that they had actually wiretapped these employees, okay, which I think is still illegal. But I guess I have to follow up on that to see what's come of that reporting. It was probably a couple weeks ago. But that's what he's talking about. He's congratulating him on his sloppy use of encrypted communications. Fun fact, not encrypted because you included a journalist, and Steve Witkoff flew his private plane to Moscow, probably left it in a Moscow hangar while getting said calls or whatever. So Steve Witkoff, completely compromised. If that plane isn't bugged, if he hasn't been peed on by a devochka in Moscow, I'll eat my hat. And I got some big hats. So this is, hello.
Same page. And
I'm
everyone
not
supports
congratulating you,
presidential
but I'm
decisions.
congratulating you? What
One
the
decision
fuck?
also I want to call out, since we haven't spoken about it here, and I'm not sure we will, I want to commend you for as well and commend your team, is the redesignation of base names for Army bases.
What?
In the summer of 2020, as a Jacobin fever swept the country
Jacobin.
during the BLM riots, it was decided to rename.
You mean when George
several
Floyd was
Army
murdered
bases.
by police
To be honest
officers?
with you, I think most soldiers serving those bases didn't even know who they were
People
named
had
after.
had enough.
They just had fond recollections for decades of their time at Fort Benning or Fort Bragg or other places.
Oh my God.
And
Tom
I think now
Hawley,
you've completed
you
the
need to
effort to
shut up.
redesignate those names, those bases,
Josh
to
Cotton.
the names that so many generations of soldiers
Who cares?
served at.
If that's their problem, I don't
for
want
new
a soldier
American
who's
heroes, is that right?
fucking focused on a base name.
Yes, all of the previous names for the U.S. Army installations have been
We spent
returned.
money
Thank
to
you. I think
change
that
the
was
names back.
an inspired approach. It
We spent money, taxpayer dollars, money you and I have given the government. They spent money changing names back. Seriously. This is fraud, waste, and abuse. Right there. That's fraud, waste, and abuse. Period. If I were MAGA, I'd be mad. But of course, they're stupid, so they're not mad.
complies with the law. It teaches a new generation of soldiers about those who went before them.
Oh,
and
you know
I hope
what?
the matter is
Actually,
settled. I especially want to
Josh
commend you for
Cotton,
Fort Gordon, named after
I
Gary
have a
Gordon,
problem
one of two
because
Delta
non-optimal way.
nobody wants to
would
hear
have the
you.
same-
Oh my God. Let's
defense.
see if, okay, we'll go.
Defense is leading a charge to make sure.
Let's
So I'm concerned
Let's start
about
with her.
our posture with regard to UAS.
Sorry, Josh
and
Cotton.
a defensive posture with regard to UAS attacks. I am very concerned about what happened over many of our military sites. Drone configurations hovering for weeks without response.
yeah, Kim.
No authorities to be able to
Gracely
track where
said the
those
South
drones came
lost.
from by the DoD to assess, are they Iranian, are they Chinese, are they Russian, are they on spy missions, what is their purpose? Inadequate authorities,
every day.
inadequate defenses, inadequate technology. The Langley incursion is incomprehensible. On top of that, I'm very concerned that we are not investing in our cyber professionals, that we don't have enough cyber offense, enough cyber defense. We have currently 30,000 open cyber positions within the DoD. So I'd like to hear from you, what's your plan to have cyber defense and cyber warriors at the appropriate complement? And number two, what is your plan to create the authorities that you need for UAS defense and to have the inadequate response of this is someone else's job no longer come out of our leaders?
Well, Senator, thank you for the question. You're right over the target. Cyber needs to be a part of every single way that we plan and look at the world. That gray zone part of conflict, and we can't cede that terrain in any way to our adversaries. And so it is, you'll see the resources in this budget that invest in that.
Shit.
You'll see it fully integrated into planning and capabilities.
It's amazing how much is branded.
And what we're looking for in the next cybercom and what we're looking for there, our Deputy Secretary of Defense is leading a charge to make sure it fits precisely what the world needs today.
So we have a program that this committee supported in the last two NDAAs,
they were changed
which is
for
a cyber
really good
academy
reasons.
to create a pipeline of young people who do cyber for service. So they get a state-of-the-art cyber education at over 600 schools around the country, and then they dedicate the number of years they had education to the Department of Defense or the intelligence community. And right now it is not being funded. And right now, because of the hiring freeze, these kids who have completed their degree under the Cyber Service Academy actually can't get a job at the DoD or the intelligence community. And they're either going to have to no longer serve, which was part of the program, or get employed somewhere else, but we lose them.
My lard coin,
what are you doing to
unplug
I'm just kidding. This problem of not hiring these cyber professionals immediately because they are part of the cyber service program? And your budget
I want to read this. Oh, shit. The Supreme Court has upheld Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care for minors in an opinion by Chief Justice John Roberts over dissent from the court's Democratic appointees. Just pull something up on that. God damn it. You know, we're not... never mind. Not a... go. All right. The Supreme Court Wednesday upheld Tennessee law restricting gender transition care for minors, delivering a major blow to transgender rights, which are human rights, by the way. Just so we're all clear on that. Trans women are women, trans men are men. There's nothing. And this barrage of attack on them over, well, since time immemorial, but intensely in the last, 10, 12 years with the rise of this administration. It's just endless attack on our transgender family, friends, neighbors, strangers, like, and let me be really clear, like, there have always been trans people. There have always been trans people. Gender is a construct. I cannot wait until this, well, of course, it won't happen in my lifetime, but maybe this younger generation, I think, is absolutely going to drive major sea change, and I'm here for it. But man, as with many communities in our world, I just am heartbroken that you can't just be who you are. And there's such violence and such rhetoric and such demonization of people who are simply existing. So, and if trans athletes were such a fucking issue, don't you think they'd win everything? And I'm not trying to be flip, although I am kind of poking fun at the bigotry. Hopefully that's what my intention is. But what the fuck are you, Riley, whatever your name is, you're just a shitty swimmer. I'm sorry. Do better. Swim better. Swim faster. But this is just a fucking boondoggle to create division and hate. because for this administration and their cohort, bigotry really works for them. Tapping into people's bigotry really, really fucking works for them. It's like, what is that saying? Not all racists are Trump voters, but all Trump voters are racist, or something like that. Or maybe it's the other way around, but I'm going to tell you right now, like, you're on the wrong fucking side of history. And it's about to smack you in the face. And you have an opportunity to denounce that and come to the side of standing up for each other. That's easy. Especially for those really fucking idiots that sit there and go, "Oh, but I love gay people. Oh, I love gay people. Just don't come near my children." You're a bigot. I'm sorry. That's what we call people who say things and believe things like that. We call you a bigot. And you, just like all of us, have an opportunity to learn and grow and open your heart to truly live and let live and support people's right to exist. It's real easy, actually. It's much easier than you think. But denying people the choice to make their healthcare decisions, which is really, this is in essence what, well, this is what it is morally wrong. And the people who are claiming freedom and wanting government to stay out of their whatevers should absolutely be up in arms at this decision. That the government would decide what is okay for a family and for a child. You know, we watched the documentary that was Will Ferrell and his friend who's a trans woman, and made that transition over the course of a very long friendship with Will Ferrell. So when they became friends back, 20, 25 years ago or whatever long it was, his friend presented as male, but began to present as who she was, female, and was more open in society with her identity of who she was. And so they made a documentary about them going through the country and kind of visiting old home spots and stuff like that. And just encountering both the acceptance, but then also when the bigotry did rise up, in around them. And it was, I thought, a very, one story. It was one story in many stories of trans existence. But it was a good story to see. I found it very moving and very personal for them to share their experiences. So I don't know. I just think there's just such an open world if we start just opening our hearts and saying, "Oh man, I really see you, and I'm going to stand up for your rights just as hard as I stand up for my own." That's in the Bible too. I'm pretty sure. Sorry to do a speech, but I'm going to be, I have to tell you, like, this is really just not that hard. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to just say, I'm going to reject all the fucking hate and rhetoric and, some weird fear. Nobody's after your children, okay? Nobody gives a shit about your kids. In fact, just handle your kids. No, that was my thing. I didn't know. No, but I'm just saying, like, nobody's after you. Nobody wants to convert you. And the people who say that are probably the last people anyone would want to convert. Yeah. I don't know. I just am like, this is not, I'm going to keep harping on it because it's like, come on now, people. So anyway, apologies for that little side sidetrack. My mom was a midwife. I had access to many books. There are many sexual anomalies, and these people are so ignorant. Yeah, and there's just an ignorance and as if their opinion fucking matters. That's the other thing that kind of gets me. Like, your opinion doesn't really matter. Uh-oh, I want to make sure. I think something's playing. Hold on. It's Mr. Putin. Boop. Boop, Mr. Putin. Sorry. So anyway, apologies for the diversion, but thank you for that. Yeah, let's just, let people be, and in fact, just be like fan-fucking-tastic, man. And expand your mind to think that nobody has to really fit into any box. That's like the antithesis of freedom. Fitting in a box is not freedom. So that's why all of us should be like standing up for each other, and just be like, yeah, fuck yeah. Trans rights are human rights. Why do we even have to say that? That's so dumb. We should not have to separate that all of us humans. I'm going to go back to what the mayor in Huntington Park said about the ICE raids in his city, well, all over. And he said, with papers, without papers, we are all Americans. If we are here, we are Americans. And I thought, wow, man, that's a simple way of putting, just open your mind that freedom, true freedom, really can be achieved if we just kind of see each other, and of course it's not simple. I'm not trying to simplify it. But it is simple for an individual to audit their worldview. I think that is simple. Which documentary, Carrie? Sorry, now I probably just forgot what I was talking about. Which one though? Tell me which one. Renee Richards did not create this type of controversy 1,000 years ago. What happened? Yeah, we're dealing with the descendants of those assholes. Let me know which documentary. I apologize, I didn't catch it in chat. I was so drawn up in my little speech. Oh, the Will Ferrell. We could watch that again. Absolutely. I would love to watch that again. I would love to watch that again. I'll do a replay of that one too. That's a great idea. It was good. It was very sweet. And it's one story. It's not the story. It's one story. And that's always important to remember. We representation does matter in this. And Black trans women were really the founding activists of the modern time, probably before that as well, but most certainly in the current day, Black trans women were very responsible for any progress we made. Yeah. So anyway, good stuff. All good stuff, but let's do better, right? Like, just fucking leave people alone. And don't say bad things, and don't slur, and don't just don't do that. That's not why we're here. We're not here to do that to each other. And I shit on people too. I'm not saying I don't shit on people, but I really do try to shit on people in relevant ways that are to their bigotry. But I'm sure I'm petty bitch more often than I should be. So, anyways, I don't know. Just be human. That's all I want. That's all I really want. What I really, really want. Zigga zigga. What I really want is to hear Kristen Gillibrand. More off topic. Mrs. Beasley looked really weird in the group photo. Oh my God, he's in where? Where is he? You said Haggard. Where is he? Relevant shits. Yeah. I definitely practice viewpoint discrimination. Hi Max, how are you, darling? Oh, Beasley went to G7. Oh. I think Beasley's having some gastrointestinal problems. He's looking a little gray these days. Yeah, G7. Thank you, Karen. Now I get it. I definitely practice viewpoint. Yeah. White House Plumbers is a good summer watch. Oh, you know what? Easily that would be a good one. We have to think of a good movie for Friday night, too. Okay, all right. I'm getting distracted, and I'm so sorry. Here we go. We'll catch up with these folks.
Does not show that you are planning to fill 100 cyber positions for these young people who want to serve in the IC community or in the IC or in the Department of Defense.
We'll review that aspect of the hiring freeze in the Cyber Academy. We want those positions filled. We're fully committed to it. And then on counter UAS, which you mentioned, it is a reality of the modern battlefield, whether it's in Ukraine or elsewhere, that we have to fully account for and address as aggressively as possible. And you have my assurances at the highest levels, we are putting our best people in charge of ensuring we have counter UAS systems that can match the threats of the future.
I would like you to prepare for this committee 2 letters in response to these questions. 1, what are you going to do to fill the 1,000 slots for the Cyber Academy? And how are you going to get this hiring freeze taken care of? And 2, what is your plan for increased authorities, increased investment, appropriate review of UAS that hover over our military and nuclear sites? So this committee has a fulsome response from your whole team about how you will address these 2 problems.
We will get that to you, Senator. And authorities, you are right, is a huge issue on counter UAS.
It's something Senator Cotton and I are committed to passing. We both serve on intelligence and armed services, and so we share the urgency on this issue.
And so, Mr. Secretary, you'll submit those letters for the record. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Senator Gillibrand. Senator Rounds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To all of you, first of all, thank you for your service to our country. I have heard now from 25 senior department officials, including every service chief and 8 combatant commanders, that vacating the 3.1 to 3.45 gigahertz and the 7 to 8 gigahertz bands of the spectrum would have significantly negative consequences for our warfighting capabilities. Being forced to share these bands with commercial interests in a non-optimal way would have the same impact. General Kane, does the Joint Force have capabilities operating on the 3.1 to 3.45 band and the 7 to 8 bands of the spectrum, which would be used in a conflict with China?
You decide, Neil.
We do.
Oh, look
Senator.
at Raising
Yes.
Cane. He's like,
And
hey,
would
baby.
those capabilities be negatively impacted if the Department of
that's
Defense were
terrible
forced
easily.
to share those bands with commercial users in a non-optimal manner?
Sure, Senator, I think the key is non-optimal. I know there's some work going on around dynamic sharing that would minimize to an acceptable level the ability to frequency hop in and out of those particular bands that would not adversely impact the Joint Force. So,
but as of today, there is no way to make it happen.
Not today, as you know, Senator, and I appreciate your leadership on this, but there's a lot of work going on in that space, sir.
I think we agree that the economic security is national security and that we need to move forward in the next gen with regard to our communications capabilities. But as it pertains to spectrum auction authority,
spectrum
how do you view a
auction.
spectrum auction process that bases
learned
decisions
about that a little
solely
tiny bit.
on economic considerations?
Well, as you said, Senator, economic security is national security. You know, those are policy decisions. My job as the chairman is to provide the military advice to our policymakers and let them make that decision. And this firmly sits in that policy space. And so rather than put myself sideways out of my swim lane, I'll leave it to them to decide.
But in your professional military opinion, the areas between 3.1 to 3.45 and the 7 to 8 band are critical to our national defense.
3.1 to 3.45, no doubt. Lower end of the 7, there's I think some discussion. 7.4 to 8.4 is an area that I'd prefer us to hang on to, Mr.
Thank
Senator.
you. And Secretary Hegseth, I know that you've told me that you would be willing to go to the mat to protect these critical capabilities. I think that is critical. In fact, these bands are essential to building Golden Dome, which will require even more radars and military communications infrastructure than we currently have.
It's tonight the heartbroken parents of an assassin.
Defense sites. as we see in Israel today. Would you agree with that today, sir?
Yes, Senator, I concur with the chairman's characterization, and I would just say at no time in conversations around spectrum has DOD's equity never been, it's always been fully represented in those conversations to ensure we protect what we need to protect.
Thank you. General Kane, what is your assessment of the operational and strategic benefits of maintaining the dual hat leadership arrangement between U.S. Cyber Command and National Security Agency, the NSA, particularly in terms of intelligence integration, speed of action, and mission success in contested environments?
Sir, I can argue both sides of that one, and you know, mindful that that's a policy discussion. I think that either will go on soon or has been going on, and I'd prefer to leave that to the policymakers. I think the key is both organizations are critically important, and whether it's a single commander or two leaders that collaborate with no distance between them, we achieve the same end state.
Would it be fair to say that the dual hat prevents stovepipes in the cyber domain today?
Senator, there's stovepipes in all kinds of domains today, so I can't assure you that it would prevent them. What I do hope is that whatever path we take, we select leaders who are committed to integrating and knocking down those stovepipes, whether it's a single leader or two leaders. That's what the nation needs.
We have been successful in making significant exchanges and utilizing assets for both the NSA and for Cyber Command so far. Secretary Hegseth, are you committed to maintaining the dual hat relationship that has significantly benefited our national security to date?
Senator, as of right now, we're maintaining the status quo, but it's something we reserve the right to review.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Round. Senator Blumenthal.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Hegseth, you've been asked about options for the use of force abroad. I want to ask about the use of our military at home. I have been deeply disturbed and alarmed by the use of active duty troops, Marines, in Los Angeles, and President Trump has made clear his intention to continue to use the military to suppress dissent and likely inflame tensions there and elsewhere, all under the guise of enforcing the law. What he's doing may well be illegal. I want to ask you about contingency plans for the use of active duty military in other cities. Do you have such contingency plans?
Senator, I would just say we share the president's view that, as you characterized it, we are deeply disturbed and alarmed that ICE officers are being attacked while doing their job in any city in America. And so allowing National Guard
we
or
can
be
alarmed
in the back. Give
to
me a
defend
break.
them is
attacks on
important.
ICE officers, yes,
Carla
but
spamming the
we
chat
ought to
with
be equally
coin
alarmed by
ideas.
the illegal use of active duty Marines or other military. I take it from your answer that you do have contingency plans for the use of military in other cities.
This is so
We have
interesting.
never and will not illegally deploy troops. All have been under existing
But you
and
do have
well-established
such plans.
authorities
I
to
find
use
that
troops
answer
to support
deeply
federal law
alarming.
enforcement officers.
So far, there's been no legal justification. It's been challenged successfully. I think that it will prevail. Those challenges will prevail in the courts. And I want to ask you right now to submit to this panel those contingency plans for the use of active duty military in other cities. I want to move on to another area of questioning. The chairman has said that you've submitted precious little detail, to quote him, precious little detail about the budget. I think there is no detail. This budget is literally a rough outline with short-sighted shortfalls. For example, the shortfall on the Columbia class, $2 billion. Only about $1 billion for Virginia class. There is virtually no outline or specificity as to how you are going to provide drones to defend and also engage in offensive outline and maneuvers. The nature of warfare is changing right before our eyes.
Sorry, the audio
time.
is off the visual, but
Unmanned aerial
I'm gonna let it be
and
so they
undersea
don't fuck it
warfare
up.
is happening in Ukraine and elsewhere. And I think that you owe this committee and the American public more specificity in that budget, because we will be at risk. We are at risk right now
I'm going to be honest.
in the Middle East. And I want to
I'm
know
probably
whether
gonna get
we
in
have
trouble
contingency plans
by
to
trying to
protect our U.S. personnel in the
stop
region from the
ICE
kind of
stuff. I don't know.
swarm
I
of
just feel
drones
like
that have proved devastating
gonna be hard to
already to
watch
3 of our service
if
people
it
in the Middle
happens
East
in
on a
front
base
of me, you know?
in Jordan. Do you have such
and not be an
plans to
asshole
protect
for
against
them
drones there?
for taking people away.
Senator, we work hand in glove with
We've
the
gotta
Joint
end
Staff
this.
and
Gotta end
CENTCOM
this.
and every COCOM, especially right now, to ensure everything at our disposal is available to ensure maximum force protection against any contingency.
Everything
including
at
the
our
one you described,
disposal?
sir.
Well,
Wait, what?
I have no assurance that we have the capacity to safeguard against the swarm of small, lightweight, slow-moving drones that are, in my view, our major vulnerability. And right now, if we engage in the Iran conflict, would put us and U.S. personnel at risk there. Let me ask you about Ukraine. I've just returned from my 7th trip to Ukraine. I am the advocate, chief sponsor with Senator Graham in the Russia sanctions bill. You said that the United States
I think it's going to be
and the ranking member cited it, that we must start by recognizing that returning to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is an unrealistic objective and will only prolong the war. My question to you is, when will you release the PDA $4 billion in equipment that Ukraine desperately needs?
What?
It's sitting there. Ukraine deserves it. When will it be released?
We're aware of PDA 75, and that is a decision we can make in the future.
What?
My time has expired, but I
Thank you.
don't consider that answer adequate.
Thank you, Senator
It's not.
Blumenthal.
It's not an answer.
Senator Ernst.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
hate
Chair,
this
and thank you,
place so
Secretary,
much. Oh,
and
God.
thank you, Chairman, for being here. Ms. McDonald, I'm actually going to have a question for you. So thank you very much for being here. And I know that Iran is on our minds right now. And Secretary, I'll just pose a very quick question to you. October 7th, 2023.
What the fuck are you doing?
Hamas attacked Israel. Who is the primary funder of Hamas?
Oh, give me a fucking break.
Senator, it is Iran.
And who is
My
the
God.
primary sponsor then that provides them with the weapons
Joni's
that they
doing
use
her
to
job.
attack Israel?
Don't get on her.
Same answer, ma'am.
Don't get
And
on
maybe
her.
our public is not aware, but 43 Americans lost their lives
Wow.
on October 7th
Wow.
at the hands
Girl.
of Hamas, which is an
Yes, which was terrible.
Iran-backed terrorist organization.
Which was terrible.
43 Americans. We never talk about it, folks. I heard nothing about this in the Biden administration.
That's not true. That's a
So
lie,
when there is
Joni.
question
You're
about
lying.
whether it's appropriate for America to be engaged
not
in the
appropriate.
Middle East in defending
Not appropriate.
Americans that live and work abroad,
Well, we just put them in. Hey, honey.
think there's our
honey,
answer.
Honey.
So thank you, Secretary.
Okay. Here, I'm
going
turning
to-
you down
I'll
because
start
what
with
I'm
the
going to
Secretary, then I'll
explain,
come to you,
you
Ms.
hog
McDonald.
castrator.
Secretary
Max.
Hegseth, I do want to thank you because we've had many discussions about this. You have appointed Steve Erickson as the Executive Director of Force Resiliency.
Joni is really
and he
going
will
balls deep now.
oversee,
Okay, she
the
always
Department's
was kind
Sexual
of.
Assault Prevention
There was a
and
moment
Response
where she kind
Office,
of
what we
pulled
know as
back in the
SAPRO.
Nikki Haley
And
days.
he will directly
Little
report to you
bit,
on
little
the issue
bit.
of sexual assault
If I remember
within our
correctly.
military.
Now,
And you've been
she's
very
balls deep.
responsive on
She
this
is the
issue, and I
Wolfowitz
commend you for that.
of
And
this
I have
generation.
already received my first briefing
In my
by
mind.
Mr.
So,
Erickson. So to
I
continue building
think,
on this progress, I'm going to
what
hold
she
quarterly
fails to
meetings
mention
with the
is that
SAPRO, and
what
we
did
want to make
BB
sure that we
know
continue
about
the momentum
October
that we are
7th,
seeing
before
within the
October
department
7th,
on that.
what
And,
information was
Secretary
shared,
Hegseth,
et
from your
cetera, et
vantage
cetera,
point,
et cetera.
What positive trends are you
important.
seeing out of SAPRO?
Also, there
first of all,
has
Senator, I
been
want to thank you and
basically
other
an
members of this
ethnic
committee for the work you've
cleansing
done on that
slash
issue.
genocide,
And I think
depending
in
on,
large part, and you'll see
the
this in this
definitions that
budget,
are
we
appropriate,
continue to fund the programs which
for
have
the
seen
state
efficacy.
of
And so I think
Gaza
a lot of these
and the
were newer
Palestinian
programs,
people,
new initiatives, new emphasis put
who
in place
again, just like
that we
all
have
people
simply
in this
sought
world,
to
have a right to
maintain and
exist
accelerate. And you
where
see
they
that
are.
in this budget. And thankfully, we've seen
And
this year
so
sexual
that
assault
type
numbers
of
decrease. One is too
imperialism
many,
and
as we've said before,
occupation,
but a decrease is a good
yeah,
trend
she's
to
very
see.
selective with
We
her
wanna continue
outrage
that.
because it's all
Wonderful. And
manufactured,
we'll
Pep.
continue working with the
Because
department
this is
on
all
that.
a show.
And an amendment
Because
that I am
somehow
going to
she is
propose for this year's
complicit
NDAA would
in what will
require
happen with this
quarterly briefings
administration,
from the
and
staff
she will
row
benefit
members
from
of Congress,
the cover
just as they do
that this administration
with,
will
suicide
provide through their own
prevention.
immunity,
So we'll continue
because
working on
everything
that.
will be an official
I
act
also
of the
would love
president,
to touch upon a
which
number
is
of
a
other
really
issues I've
good
worked as
thing
far when
about
it comes
Russ
to
Vogt
fiscal
and what he
sanity
wants to
within
do
the
to centralize
department.
power
I can
in the
submit those for
executive
the record
branch.
because I do want to
We
give
have
Ms.
a
McDonald
pending
an
article
opportunity.
to read
Let's talk
about
an
that
audit.
very effort,
I love,
which we will
so
be
I love
reading.
working with the comptrollers out there, but GAO
Yeah, they make up
released a
charges
report
these days,
warning
so
that
yes,
the
they will
Department of
arrest you.
Defense
And
is
here's the thing, I thought
unlikely
about that
to
yesterday when I
achieve a
saw,
clean
first of all,
audit
the
by
U.S. Attorney for
2028,
California,
citing
fuck you.
longstanding financial
I
management
don't know, he's such
weaknesses.
a dick.
And it's my
I'm just gonna-
understanding that a key
I'm just going to mute her. All right, so she's muted. You can read what she's saying pretty much. Yeah, she's got a really annoying voice. Real annoying voice. Yeah, so yesterday they had this silly, stupid press conference about how they're arresting people for giving out masks and eye shields because DHS, police, etc. were shooting the crowd with pepper balls and flashbangs and tear gas and rubber bullets. That's why people were handing out masks and other things, because they know that when large groups of people protest, protective equipment, water, snacks, that stuff's going to be needed. And there's wonderful, beautiful volunteers that show up and hand out those supplies. And that is the farthest thing from criminal. And they are going after that young man. And so I'm going to start getting involved in what's happening judicially to the folks here who are being arrested. And this fucking U.S. attorney, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He is a fucking maggot prick. And so I just am so angry. Oh, sorry. Here we go. I don't want to.
And I rightly questioned whether you had
I'll
the
be quiet now.
requisite
Thank you for coming to my
qualifications and
other
experience to lead the DoD, the largest federal agency, especially given your checkered past, which included paying $50,000 in hush money to settle a sexual assault allegation against you and driving 2 veterans organizations into the ground. After only months on the job, our concerns about you have proven true, as far as I'm concerned. Instead of strengthening national security,
Yes,
you've
Karen.
turned the Pentagon
They were
into a
protective because
dysfunctional
people were
mess.
being injured by the
You
police.
are jeopardizing military operations and service members' lives with your unprecedented action of texting classified military plans to anyone who might stroke your ego. Leading the Department of Defense is more than just
This
a
is the
PR
castration.
campaign filled
Okay.
with photo ops. While you pose for cameras,
Joni, you
Russia's
could learn a thing or
war
two from Ms.
of
Hirono.
aggression against Ukraine continues unabated. Israel and Iran are also at war, in large part because your boss tore up a multilateral agreement former President Obama brokered with the UK, France, Germany, China, and Russia that curbed Iran's nuclear program and ambitions. Meanwhile, China advances in the Pacific as this regime undermines and attacks our allies. At a time when steady leadership is
She was
critical,
bred back
we
feet.
are confronted with crisis
right.
and instability.
Joni wore
Mr.
bread
Secretary,
bags
close
to
to
keep her feet
5,000 Marines
dry,
and
which I think
National
my dad
Guards
did too.
have
So,
been deployed to
you're not the
LA
first one, Joni.
without the request or consent of the California governor or the Los Angeles mayor, Bass. Rather than calming the situation, this troop deployment is purposefully
Is causing
inflaming
all of
and
the drama.
escalates tensions. You claim lethality is your top priority. Do you plan to unleash this lethal force against U.S. citizens and civilians in LA and other cities?
Well, Senator, I would reject most of the characterization of that statement, including lethality against U.S. cities, when
Well,
all of those National Guardsmen and
Secretary-
Marines have conducted themselves with the
5,000.
utmost of professionalism, defending our federal agents, Americans.
Well,
who
we're
We're
deserve
not
to be
doing
able to do
anything
their
to your
job
federal
to
agents.
a
They're the
deport
ones with
illegal
the
immigrants
guns,
after the
bitch.
previous administration allowed
Reclaiming my
21
time.
million
I am
illegals
not
to
here to
cross our
Reclaim
listen
border.
to
time.
rhetorical responses. I would like to have a professional response that I would expect from somebody who is the Secretary of Defense. Millions of people peacefully demonstrated this weekend against the president acting like a king.
Congratulations
Given
to
this
all
regime's
of
dangerous
us.
policy of mobilizing troops
And all the
inside the
lovers.
U.S., the politicizing of the military is a legitimate concern. So, given the dangerous policy of mobilizing troops inside the U.S., if ordered by the president, I'm going to ask you once again, to shoot peaceful protesters in the legs, would you carry out such an order from the president?
Senator, as I've said before, of course, I reject the premise of your question and the characterization that I would be given or are given unlawful
Considering-
orders. It's all meant
Excuse
to
me.
attempt to smear the commander-in-chief,
Again,
and I won't
considering that
fall
the
for it.
president in his first term actually ordered such a thing,
Not so far out of
it is not
the-
a premise that you can reject. He can order it, do the same thing. So you're, again, I think you would just follow what the president wants you to do. Let's face it, it is not normal to call up our troops in this way, and there is
Exactly,
active
Kim.
litigation
There are- those
against
numbers are
this
so fucking
deployment.
stupid.
Will you follow a court's order regarding
No problem,
whether or
Badge.
not this deployment is legal? If the court says this deployment of troops into our cities is not legal, would you follow that court's order?
100%, Gal. Good morning, love.
It's pending in the courts, Senator.
Well, when the court decides, would you follow that court's order, decision?
I don't believe district courts should be determining national security policy,
So
but
you will not
So
be
no.
following that.
when it goes to
it's
the
a
Supreme Court,
legitimate
we'll see.
Court. And unless the president decides to appeal, there you have it. So I take it that you don't consider district court decisions to be legitimate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary General, welcome. I think you guys are doing a great job. And I think this kind of line of questioning, it's amazing how my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are all now focused on readiness.
Guess what we got,
Right,
folks? Oh,
I mean, I know my colleague from
look at what
Hawaii
we've got.
chaired the
Hold on.
Readiness Subcommittee. I think we had 2 hearings in 4 years.
You guys,
Right,
guess
so
what?
I appreciate your focus on readiness,
know.
lethality, deterrence.
Oh,
Ms. Secretary, thank you also
Here we
for
go.
your
Wait, where
focus
is
on
it?
Indo-PACOM.
Should get
Your
this
speech and
organized.
attendance at the Shangri-La Dialogue was really outstanding.
dang it.
And General, I'm glad you were there as well. I appreciate your direct answer to the chairman on following the laws directed by the
okay,
budget
it's coming. All right, hold
reconciliation
on,
bill, which
hold
hopefully we're
on.
going to get
Oh,
over the
here it
goal line. It'll be
is.
great for our military. It's important that all your subordinates get that message as well. Sure they will. General, thank you for your visit to Alaska, the most strategic place in the world. Ms. Secretary, I'd love to have you up there soon. As a matter of fact, for your staff, take a look. August 16, 18, that's going to be the overlap of 2 large-scale exercises in Alaska, Northern Edge, Arctic Edge.
Sorry, my voice is a little
I
out
believe
today.
the Indo-PACOM commander, Northcom commander will likely be there around that time. Would love to have you there, Mr. Secretary, so take a look at that date. General, do you have any quick takeaways from your Alaska visit?
This dude.
Sure, thanks for hosting me up there on my way to Shangri-La. It was great to see all the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines on the northern flank getting after it. It reminded me of the criticality of that part of our country and the importance of taking power projection up there. And I know the services are all looking at that, so thank you for having me.
Everybody appreciated your visit, so thanks again. Ms. Secretary, I really appreciate your focus on reestablishing deterrence. By the way, it's really hard to do once you've lost it. This has been particularly true with regard to Iran. Let me give you my view on how tough that has been. You know, the Quds Force, led by Soleimani, killed and wounded over thousands of U.S. service members when they were providing EFPs to the Iraqi Shia militias, while John Kerry was palling around with the Iranian foreign minister, Zarif, the JCPOA stuff. General, you might remember one of your great predecessors, General Dunford, in a hearing before this committee, said we had completely lost deterrence, that the Iranians thought they could kill American service members anytime they wanted, and they ended up killing over 600 and wounding over 2,000.
And then what happened?
With no consequences.
And then what happened?
General Dunford telling this committee. We regained deterrence under President Trump's first term with the maximum pressure campaign and in particular killing Soleimani. Biden came in, appeasement of Iran was the order of the day, appeasement of Iran's proxy was the order of the day, and we lost deterrence again. So much so that not only did he unleash the proxies, the Iranians, and fund them, but it was public knowledge that Iran was trying to assassinate senior U.S. officials, including Mike Pompeo and President Trump. Talk about losing deterrence.
I can't sing today.
Mr. Secretary, Iran's military and leadership is in complete disarray right now.
Where's the goddamn
because of the bold actions by Israel. Is this an opportunity now to once again, like we did in the first term of the Trump administration, reestablish deterrence against this terrorist regime by making sure one way or the other they never have the capacity to enrich or produce a nuclear bomb, a goal that President Trump has repeatedly emphasized.
Or another. Sorry.
And again, I thank you for focusing on reestablishing deterrence.
Oh, yeah.
It's critical. And you're right. It's difficult to reestablish when you lost it, which we did under the Biden administration. We know right now that Tehran understands exactly what the president is saying. He said 60 days.
Yeah, just fuck
the world can believe it. The world cannot believe it. He set 60 days. They had an opportunity to make a deal. They should have made a deal. President Trump's word means something. The world understands that. And at the Defense Department, our job is to stand ready and prepared with options, and that's precisely what we're doing.
So is this an opportunity now to reestablish deterrence the way it was done in the first administration?
I'm going to ask it again.
Senator, I think we already have, in many ways, in this environment, reestablished deterrence. The question is, in the coming days, what direction that goes.
Finally, Golden Dome. We look forward to working with you. It was good to see you at the Oval Office. We have a great opportunity.
Think of golden showers.
Presidential
I'm so
leadership.
Sorry. They should not
your
have
leadership.
That should not be a thing.
Budget reconciliation bill, $25 billion down payment. Senator Kramer and I will be introducing legislation with Senator Sheehy on this next week to firmly entrench our strategy. We've been working closely with DOD on Golden Dome in the law, and we look forward to continuing to work with you on that.
Thank you, Senator Sullivan. Senator Kane.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Earlier this month, you announced a plan to change the name of 3 Virginia military bases to restore the names of Confederate-era generals on those bases.
I'm so sorry.
You researched to find brave American soldiers with the same last names, Lee, Hill, and Pickett, who had not fought for the Confederacy and declared that those Confederate adjacent names would be restored. The problem is that you had to strip away the names of 4 amazing people that the Pentagon and local communities had chosen to honor at the Virginia bases. Van Barfoot, he was a Mississippi native, Mr. Chair, who came to Fort Pickett in the early 40s to train for war. He fought all over Europe in World War II. He won the Congressional Medal of Honor for his bravery.
I'm going to brand
leading
it.
his platoon in southern Italy. He killed 10 of the enemy, captured 17 more, and escorted 2 wounded Americans 1,700 yards to safety under enemy fire. Stayed in the Army for another 34 years, seeing action in both the Korean and the Vietnam Wars, and being assigned as the Army liaison to the Virginia National Guard at Fort Pickett. Long after he retired, he maintained his tie to the fort and to the Virginia National Guard. I was at the naming ceremony.
Sorry, I'm really
where
high
this
right
base,
now.
to which he had devoted much of his life, was named in his honor. His family was there, and they were so proud. Arthur Gregg served in the Army for more than 30 years, first African-American to reach the rank of brigadier general, first to reach the rank of lieutenant general, began as an enlisted, eventually decided to become a commissioned officer, went to Fort Lee for quartermaster training, quickly rose through the ranks as an instructor, even though he was not allowed to go to the officers' club because of the color of his skin. He finished his career in 1979 as the director of all Army logistics operations around the world. He stayed near Fort Lee in retirement, raised his family there, and was a continuous beloved presence until his death last summer at 96. He was actually at the renaming ceremony with his family in 2022 at this place that meant so much to him. Charity Adams. Charity Adams was an Army officer during World War II, the first African-American woman allowed to join the WACs. She was the commanding officer of the 6888th Central Postal Directory Battalion, a unique battalion composed primarily of African-American women making sure that American GIs in Europe got their mail during World War II. Our colleagues Jackie Rosen and Jerry Moran successfully passed a bill in 2022 giving the 6888 the Congressional Gold Medal. Charity Adams was the highest-ranking African-American woman in the military at the end of World War II. Her family was at the dedication of Fort Gregg Adams, named in honor of these two trailblazing logistics leaders. They were so proud. Finally, Mary Walker, the only woman ever to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor. She graduated from Syracuse Medical School in 1855. She tried to join the Union Army as a surgeon, was turned away because she was a woman. But the need was so great, she eventually got hired at a military hospital in Washington and then was deployed as an Army surgeon with the Army of the Cumberland and the 52nd Ohio Infantry, becoming the first female surgeon in the U.S. Army. She served all over Virginia, including the place where the base is now named after her. She frequently crossed battle lines to treat civilians and even treated Confederate soldiers. She was captured, a prisoner of war in Richmond, until a prisoner relief president, Andrew Johnson, gave her the Congressional Medal of Honor after the Civil War. Why did you decide that these four patriots were not worthy enough to have their names on a base?
Well, Senator, as you know, this was never about the names of the bases they were renamed to.
So you don't challenge
all
the
bases,
crap.
restoring all bases to their original
to the
name, because
Confederate
we're not
names.
about erasing
Okay,
history.
you don't care about their military record. You wanted to restore the Confederate names. When you called the Gregg family to tell them that their dad's name was no longer going to be on the base, what was their reaction?
Senator, the Army notified them of that.
You didn't call any of the families, and I've spoken with the families, and the families were called by the press. That's how they learned about this. They learned about it from the press. You didn't call the Barfoot family, the Gregg family, and you didn't call the Adams family. I told the families I'd ask you about this today. In fact, two of General Gregg's granddaughters, Avery and Sydney, are right here in the audience, and I want to ask you this as I close. While you announced that these brave men and women's names would be stripped from the Virginia bases, no orders to that effect have been received by the base commanders. In light of the patriotic service of Van Barfoot, Arthur Gregg, Charity Adams, and Mary Walker, I'd like to ask you simply not to issue the orders changing the names of these Virginia bases. These families, my Commonwealth, are very proud of these heroes, very satisfied with these names, and ask you not to change them. Will you honor these exemplary patriots and keep their worthy names in places on the bases they loved and where they served?
Well, Senator, we very much thank and appreciate them for their service, and we'll find ways to recognize them, but the orders will soon be going to those bases to change the names back to the original name that never should have been changed.
But you have the power to not send those orders. They haven't gone out yet, correct?
Thank you. Senator, your time has expired. Senator Kramer.
Shame.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
Shame.
Mr. Secretary General, for being here, for your service.
Well, this guy is such a
I want to
dick.
go back to something that Senator Hirono mentioned in her questioning. She credited the Obama administration, along with some other allies, with curbing Iran's
We may get
nuclear
to
capabilities. As I
Oh, wait,
recall,
I gotta
it
find that picture.
licensed their aspirations. And serious problem. We're still living with some of that. And by the way, when it comes to deterrence, and I appreciate you making this point, and I agree with my colleague from Alaska, Senator Sullivan, on this. Deterrence is definitely made up of weapons, but it is more of a reputation than it is a capability. The capability is only good if you have earned the reputation. With that in mind, and speaking of Iran and current situation, maybe, General, I could ask you this. If Fordo was destroyed, demolished, if all of the nuclear capabilities that Iran has today were wiped out, would the war be shortened or lengthened? realizing that's not the only factor, of course.
Yeah, yes, sir. That's,
All right,
and of
doggy
course, I
needs a little
can't,
walk, so I'll
split that
BRB.
hair, given the complexities of the war that's ongoing there. So I'd rather not comment on one particular part. You know, the Israelis are, as reported in the open source press, are making great progress. So I think I'll just leave it at that, Senator.
I understand and appreciate that. Can you then highlight for me that as we talk about deterrence and reputation, I'm thinking, sitting here thinking about the air superiority that Israel has accomplished over Iran. I'd like to have you speak to that, and then speak perhaps to the lack of air superiority that Russia's had over Ukraine, and the difference in those two wars. And my point being, how important is air superiority in the current fights and in our future fights?
Well, sir, we could spend hours talking about the advocacy of air power. I think the freedom of maneuver that it creates is a great example of that. If you look at the two theaters right now with the Israeli Air Force striking at will at this point over Iran, juxtaposed with the challenges that we're having with a frozen forward line of troops in Europe, is a great case study of it. You know, the great thinkers, air power thinkers, are looking at the advancement in technologies from both theaters, the advancement of first-person view drones and things like that. And I think folks are going to have to think clearly about what does the future of air superiority look like, and how does it evolve to make sure that we're protecting those essential teammates that are on the ground fighting in order to prevent frozen flots, forward lines of troops in the future.
I appreciate that. Secretary Hegseth, there's been some discussion, certainly in your opening statements, and then with a couple of the questions related to base defense. And this would be something both of you could speak to, but I'd like to start with you, Secretary. Obviously, we've seen some pretty spectacular displays of the ability to go deep, covertly deep within the enemy's territory and take out some pretty significant assets, both in Russia and in Iran. A lot of us fear that we're vulnerable as well. You spoke very briefly, or referenced, I think, in response to one of Senator Gillibrand's questions about the importance of policy. So when we talk about the United States itself and our bases here in the country, policy is a bigger challenge than weapons, to be honest. But what about responsibility? In other words, I think to me, there's some confusion over is there a service, is there a particular institution that's responsible for base security and base defense, or is it up to the individual services to protect their own bases? Can you help straighten that out for me?
Senator, you're right to ask the question. We met on this very topic 2 days ago, because you're right, we've already made initial efforts, but I liken it to the effort that was made around IEDs in Iraq and Afghanistan, where it couldn't be a service-only response. It needed to be across the joint force. It needed to be immediate, and the capabilities had to be prepared to adapt in real time to adjustments the enemy is making. And you saw that in things that could counter IED technology. We need the same type of effort in counter UAS. Not just forward deployed, because right now you do it with what you have, but also at home considering the authorities. So that is something the department is doing in real time.
If you have a second. I guess that's it. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Kramer. Senator King.
Mr. Secretary, I'm somewhat puzzled. I grew up in Virginia, where Robert E. Lee was revered. I think when I was a kid, his birthday was a school holiday. But as I grew older and learned more about American history, I learned that he fit the classic definition of a traitor. He took up arms against his country. He broke his oath as a member of the United States Army, which he took upon entering his career at West Point. Why are you going through these incredible gymnastics, finding current soldiers or other soldiers to rename? And you slipped a minute ago. You said we're returning these bases to their original names. Robert E. Lee, leading general of the Confederacy, Pickett, the other names. Why are you doing this? I don't understand what the motivation is to rename bases for people who took up arms against their country on behalf of slavery. what possible motivation can there be for this? Who is telling you to do this? Who is urging you to do this?
Senator, the veterans and service members across the country who have deployed from Fort Bragg or Fort Benning or Fort Hood or Fort Pickett, there's a legacy, there's a connection to those bases and to those places, to what they trained for there, what they did for, and what they came home back to. That matters to them. Ask enough of them, as I do, all the time, before and later. And we recognize the service of those who were put into the replacement. No one's disputing that. I would never dispute that. What we're looking at is erasing history, erasing names, erasing base names that service members are tied to. Talk to people that serve at Bragg. Ask people that serve at Fort Bragg or Fort Benning if they like the fact that the names have been returned. And to a man and to a woman, they will tell you, thank God we're back to Fort Bragg, and thank God we're back. And thankfully, because so many men and women in this country have served, there's a Benning and a Bragg and a Pickett and a Hood has a Silver Star or a Medal of Honor that we could rename the base to because of the limits of what Congress allowed us to do. So this is something we've been proud to do, something that's important for the morale of the Army, and those communities appreciate that we've returned it back to what it was instead of trying to play this game of erasing names.
We're not erasing history, Mr. Secretary. We're recognizing history and recognizing that mistakes have been made in this country. The greatest of all was the Civil War, where people took up arms against their country on behalf of the institution of slavery. And to continue the practice of recognizing those people and honoring them by the naming of these bases is, I believe, an insult to the people of the United States. Let me talk about the budget. I don't understand why the budget is coming to us in two pieces. Why not give us an honest base budget instead of putting a piece of it in reconciliation? As I understand it, OMB is saying we're going to have a flat defense budget for the next 4 or 5 years. Are we planning reconciliation every year from now on? Why not give us an honest budget telling us what your priorities are, and then we can consider it. This committee always works in a bipartisan basis on the defense budget. We all want to see some increases in the defense budget, and yet you're giving us this this fake, here's a piece of the budget, here's another. You're cutting, in the base budget, you're cutting shipbuilding in half and saying, well, we're going to make it up in reconciliation. Are we going to have reconciliation every year, which basically, by the way, puts a significant part, 10 or 15% of the defense budget in a wholly partisan decision-making process, whereas in the history of this committee, it's always been bipartisan. Why are we doing it this way?
Why?
Senator, from our view, the budget number 961 meets the requirements and threats that we face. And
that's not the number. The number is 892.6. You're adding reconciliation. That's my whole point. Why not give us a base budget of 961 or whatever the right number is, what you consider the right number, and then we can operate and make our decisions. Why do it in this bifurcated way that really is fooling the American people about what the defense budget is?
We're not trying to fool anybody, sir. It's 2 bills, 1 budget. We're working with OMB, and we feel very comfortable with the number of $961 billion.
Why don't you give us a straight-up budget for the Defense Department?
Straight up, now tell me, are you going to try
Senator, this is a straight-up budget for the Defense Department, and it's a
people?
13% increase over what Joe Biden gave us.
It is a two-part defense budget. Part of it is in reconciliation instead of in the budget that's being presented to this committee.
We got to make a jingle for that.
This committee only has a partial review of the budget. I don't understand why we can't have an honest, straightforward budget instead of this son of Oko that you're putting over on us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I don't know what that means, but it sounds fancy.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank each of you for being here, and I want to thank you for your dedication to the country, each of you. So, Secretary, you talked a little bit in your opening statement about China. So this committee, we've basically outlawed the use of Chinese drones by our government and our military. We have the ability now going forward that we won't even license them in this country. Can you just talk about, the importance of making sure that our military, we don't have Chinese products, whether it's drones, we don't buy Chinese drugs for our military, we don't buy, we don't allow China to buy
I hope we don't buy their
farmland
drugs
close to our military bases. We don't allow them to be involved in our electrical grid.
This is one of my
bring in,
favorite all-time
despicable
gifs. Every time
foods
Rick
into our
Scott says
commissaries.
anything on
Can
Twitter,
you
I
talk about
used
the
to put
importance of
this
that
under it.
when they have a government that wants to destroy everybody in this
Debate
room's way of
face.
life?
You can hardly find this GIF anymore, by the way. It's very precious.
You're correct in what you're describing, Senator. We need to get smarter, faster. And that's the kind of urgency that we feel in the Defense Department. Is there's been a lot of talk about prioritization and pivoting and recognizing the size and scale and scope of the Chinese threat. And then there's doing everything possible inside your decision cycle to include how you posture, how you procure, how you plan to ensure that it's not reliant in any way. You don't have Achilles heels in any part of the process, whether it's critical munitions or it's critical minerals or it's any number of our weapon systems. I mean, you've heard the president say, Golden Dome, his big signature priority for the defending the homeland will be American made, because we can't have systems like that dependent on
Oh, here
what
we
the
go.
Chinese could do
Creative
about it
process.
later
It's the
on.
writer's
So,
room.
we
If
completely
you're in
agree
it
with
to
you,
win it,
and
say Joe Biden
myself
did
and
it.
Deputy Secretary are, that's
Joe
kind of an
Biden.
A#1 for us, is in making sure
Joe Biden.
that what we
blame
source
Joe Biden.
is sustainable.
Blame Joe Biden. Blame
So
Joe Biden. We can make a
If
bop out of
Communist
that.
China continues to build up their economy, do you think they'll continue to invest in their military?
I can't keep up with
Yes,
these
sir,
guys.
and I think a
so
lot
I'm
of
just gonna
that
go with the
spending is
generic.
commingled.
And do you believe that that if the American public knew the risk of China?
I
and
mean,
what-
does
like
anybody
what
else
you
do
think
the
about
news
every
like
day,
this? Come on now.
that they buy
Come on
fewer
now.
Chinese
Why don't we have
products?
2,900 people watching this nonsense?
Sure, sir, it's our job to think about that every day. If a lot of the information we saw were to be made public, there would probably be more urgency. Yes, sir.
Do you think
what?
That we ought to be allowing Chinese companies to be able that support either the economy of China so they can build up a military, or companies
marbles
that
in your
actually
mouth,
work with the
Scott?
Chinese military? Do you think they ought to be able to sell stocks in America?
Hold on. Oops. Oh, shit.
Senator, that's not really my lane, but I would say that the president is focused, especially through trade, on
president is,
right-sizing
I
a
don't
lot
know,
of those
something.
dynamics.
We're not
and
really
making sure
sure,
that
but
American
this guy's
companies, American
amazing.
industries are protected and brought back to the United States.
Okay.
And
So
we'll have to
whether-
consult with the
whether it's,
cabinet and
Americans
get
buying
back to you on
products
that.
help China build their economy, so they can build a military to try to
So
defeat
it's China,
us. So
it's
whether
China, it's
buying
China, it's
Chinese
China, it's Iran,
drones
it's
or
Iran, it's Iran,
drugs,
it's China, it's Iran,
or
it's
allowing
Tell
them
us
to
more
buy
about your air
farmland,
fryer.
you would recommend to the American public that we wake up and stop doing these things.
Oh, wait, here we go. Whoa.
Generally speaking, Senator, yes.
Thank you.
They move their head too much. Some of these guys are starting to, the Adderall's kicking in.
Senator Warren.
Thank you,
Oops,
Mr. Chairman.
no eyes
So
for you.
President
No eyes
Trump
for
has
you,
deployed the
Elizabeth.
National Guard
Adore you.
and then the U.S. Marines to Los Angeles over the objections of state and local officials, saying that the troops are needed to support immigration detention operations that are being carried
No,
out
they
by
don't.
ICE.
They're
On
attacking
Sunday night,
citizens.
the president
They're
threatened to
attacking
deploy
residents of the
ICE
city.
agents to other
They're
cities
terrorizing
around the country
neighborhoods.
that he sees as, quote, the core of the Democrat power center, end quote, specifically mentioning Chicago and New York. Secretary Hegseth, if the president wanted to deploy Marines to Chicago and New York City like he did in Los Angeles, would you carry out that order even if the local governors and mayors objected?
Well, Senator, because Governor Newsom was unwilling to address
that's not my
protecting
question.
federal
No,
law
you guys
enforcement agents
created the
in Los
drama.
Angeles,
100
President
full
Trump
stop.
had all the authorities, and the Defense Department happily
Full stop.
supported defending
You guys
our ICE
created
agents
this.
in the conduct
There's
of their
no
job.
chaos
They
in
have the
this city
right as
before your
Americans to be able to do
stupid
their job
asses
without being
started shooting
attacked by
people.
mobs.
As
they
and
ran
we will
away.
protect them in that
I know
process.
that
And
you
if
heard
other
my
states
question.
needed it, we would provide that.
I know that
Man,
you
don't
heard my
fucking let
question.
him take
So
that. Come
you
on,
would be
shut him
willing to
down.
send troops if the president ordered it to Chicago, New York City? That's right.
Well, thankfully, New York City, unlike California, unlike Gavin Newsom, is willing to step up and address the issue with their local law
I will
enforcement.
take that as a yes. How about if the president says he wants to send troops to 15 cities? Would you be willing to do that?
Senator, I don't accept your hypothetical because it's
That's a hypothetical.
Not a real
That's
one.
the question. You're the Secretary of Defense. Would you send troops to 15 cities if the president said do it? Would you do it? 15 cities.
Again, Senator, It's a complete hypothetical lacking any context at all.
You're the
And I
Secretary
refuse
of
to box
Defense.
myself in based on
it does have
questioning a
context.
hypothetical.
What's happening
asking
right now?
for $1 trillion, and I want to know how you're going to spend it. And so my question is, if Donald Trump tells you to send troops to 15 American cities, are you going to spend the money and send the troops?
Thankfully, we're spending money on
What Gal
securing
is
our southern
saying. Hold
border,
on.
a way the previous administration abandoned and allowed
Okay, so you're
21
not gonna
million
answer
illegals to
that
enter our
question
country. So
anyway.
defending our homeland is a real serious priority under this administration, and we're doing
I
it.
understand the question about defense. Secretary Hegseth, about 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines have been sent to LA. Is there a number of troops deployed to American cities over the objections of governors and mayors, at which you would be concerned that we are undermining our national defense?
Senator, we've spent 2 decades guarding other people's borders. We think at the Defense Department it's about time we shore up ours.
So that's my question. Is there a number at which sending those troops to Los Angeles or Chicago or New York starts to undermine our ability to defend ourselves around the globe? Is there a number?
Senator, we look at capabilities and readiness around the globe all the time, and we're quite satisfied with our capabilities to defend the homeland, and we'll provide more if and when it's necessary.
So you are satisfied
You're
with our
quite
capabilities.
satisfied?
Let me just ask, have you actually done the analysis and figured out how many troops you can deploy domestically before you start to undermine readiness around the world? Have you done that analysis?
Yes, ma'am.
Then would you let the rest of us in on it? We are the Senate Armed Services Committee, and you're here to ask for $1 trillion. What's the number?
We've got contingencies and plans for any number of capabilities should governors be unable, as Gavin Newsom has been,
So can you
to
give
actually
us a
secure his
ballpark
own
on
federal
what that
agents
number
in their
is?
cities.
How many troops can you deploy domestically before you start to cut into our
It's an
readiness
excellent
internationally?
question.
As I said, previous administrations deployed our National Guard all
Bitch,
around
we're
the
not talking
globe
about
in
that.
numbers
Have a
far
number,
beyond
but
what we
you're
were capable
just
of
not gonna
supporting.
tell
So
us.
limited
So let me
contingencies
ask you
inside the
one
United
more
States to
question.
protect federal law
If the
enforcement
Supreme
is
Court orders
doable.
you to remove troops from American city streets, will you do so?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. If the Supreme Court orders you to remove troops from American cities, will you do so?
As I've said, Senator, I don't believe district courts should determine national security policy,
Well,
but if the
unfortunately,
Supreme Court
that's the
rules
way
on a
the system
topic,
works,
we will abide
sweetheart.
by that.
I understand you're a Nazi.
During her press conference last
But
week,
that's the way this
Secretary
system
Noem
works.
said,
Good morning, Scott.
We
How
are
are you,
staying
darling?
here to liberate the city from its mayor and its governor, people who were elected by a majority of voters. Secretary Hegseth is saying he is ready to deploy more troops and won't tell us what the implications are
telling you,
for our national
I've been
defense.
screaming
This
it,
is
and I know everybody
un-American,
else
and
has
it makes
too.
us unsafe.
This is a
I
crucible
wish our
moment
Republican colleagues would
and just
speak
a
up.
real
Time of the senator has expired.
critical
Senator Tuberville.
point
Thank you,
for
Mr. Chairman. Thanks for being
authoritarianism,
here today.
what's happening in
Mr.
our
Secretary,
city and
thanks
other
for
cities.
looking out for the law enforcement and the millions of people in California that still love this country.
It's Tommy
and want this
Traderville.
country to survive.
Hi,
and
Tommy
not the
Traderville. How
radicals
are you doing today?
That wave
Hold on.
non-American flags,
Hold on.
protest in the streets,
Oh, God,
tear
you know
things down.
what?
It is ridiculous, and thank you for doing what you're doing.
Brr,
You
brr,
and
brr,
President
brr,
Trump.
brr, brr. Oh,
one of your top-
sorry. It kind of went right ahead. Sorry, Tommy Traderville.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oops.
Senator Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
General Kane,
Zoom, zoom.
both before and during your confirmation hearing, we discussed your commitment to duty and to adhering to the Constitution as well as your oath of office. And I certainly appreciated your reassurance that you will remain, quote, a nonpartisan leader through and through, unquote. With one of your top priorities being maintaining
She said
the
SCOTUS,
independence
not district
of
courts.
the
He
U.S.
doesn't-
military.
he only knows that
Along
line,
with
Max.
remaining apolitical, I'm sure you will agree that
He's like
fostering
a Trump Jr.
stable,
They give him some lines and he
mission-focused
spits them out.
environment
That's
is
all.
essential
That's
to
why he
leading
has
the
Sally with
Department
him,
of
who knows
Defense.
the
So my
numbers.
question for you, sir, is can you please share with this committee and the American people what your approach to leadership as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is?
Yes, sir. It's certainly the job is one to understand the global set of challenges, integrate the options that must be considered, and then to present those options to the president. And I've always taken a servant leadership approach throughout my career based on my oath of office and the Constitution and my commission.
And as a nonpartisan
Your
leader,
oath.
you reiterate that.
Always, yeah, I
really?
reiterate that.
Well, thank you. And as a former
Okay.
lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy Reserve, I certainly agree with that and agree with your answers and your commitment to the men and women in uniform. Secretary Hegseth, your approach to leadership, I believe, stands in direct conflict with the ideas that we just discussed with General Kane. And at a time of great chaos and uncertainty in the world, I'm extremely concerned that your many shortcomings could have potentially life-threatening consequences for American service members. In your confirmation hearing, I expressed my deep reservations about your qualifications to run the DOD. I also made it clear that no board of directors in the world would hire someone with so little experience to run a large business, much less the Department of Defense, where American lives are on the line regularly. For this reason, in addition to some concerns we had about character, I ultimately opposed your nomination. And unfortunately, my reservations have become reality. I know my colleagues have touched on some of these issues, but to briefly summarize, you have failed to set the example, or lead from the front, as you like to say.
That's why the
And this
Biden hearing
includes,
is at the same time, to get people to
prompting a
focus on the
leadership and
Biden
oversight
hearing and not
vacuum
this.
at the department by firing
That's why the Biden
qualified
hearing's happening at the
uniformed
same
leaders
time.
without cause, creating loyalty tests and leak investigations that have led to 5 of your senior advisors resigning or being fired, sharing classified military details on an unsecure app during operations in Yemen that included unauthorized individuals on at least 2 separate occasions, and revoking the DoD personal
find out about
protection
that
detail for
wiretapping
both
thing, too.
Secretary of Defense Mark Esper and the former chairman of Joint Chiefs Mark Milley, putting their safety at risk while they are still under threat from Iran. We have seen time and time again how your conduct, lack of personal responsibility, are harming readiness, reputation, and professionalism of our military. At a time where Israel and Iran are in open conflict and our adversaries in Russia and China will exploit any weaknesses, unfortunately, my worst fears about your leadership shortfalls, unfortunately, have been realized. Secretary Hesketh, I firmly believe that accountability from leadership is vital in all sectors, not just in the military.
Secretary
And
Drunk.
demonstrating to your subordinates that everyone plays by the same rules helps to build trust and open communications within your team. And those two things are extremely important. And I know that you share my desire to ensure that we're holding our senior leaders accountable for actions. And during your nomination hearing, you stated, quote, accountability is coming because everybody in this room knows if you are a rifleman and you lose your rifle, they are throwing the book at you, end of quote. You also said that leadership has been unwilling to take accountability, and I couldn't agree more on how important accountability is. As we all know, at the request of this committee, the Department of Defense Inspector General launched an investigation into your use of Signal, an unclassified commercially available messaging application to discuss information pertaining military actions in Yemen. So given your focus on accountability, how will you demonstrate this accountability to the men and women in the U.S. military if the Inspector General finds that you improperly disclosed information?
That assessment is pending at this time.
That is a hypothetical question.
Oh, stop yourself.
But the gentleman's
shut
time
yourself
has expired.
up.
I think your answer is clear. You are not going to be held accountable.
Oh, my
Thank
God.
you very much, Senator Peters. Senator Mullen.
Talk about accountability. I wonder who was held accountable for the disastrous
Oh, my
withdrawal out of
God.
Afghanistan.
Oh, my
where
God.
13
Well, that would be
soldiers
dumb.
died,
Okay,
and we
because
left
have you heard of
thousands
the
Americans
Doha
behind
meeting?
Underneath Secretary
Have you heard?
Austin's
I'm not going to listen because you can read what this little, dirty Q-tip kind of guy is saying, because you can read what he's saying, and it's just as stupid as he is. Mark Wayne Mullen. There's not enough names for this man to be taken seriously on any planet I don't know what's going on with the roid rage that he's got. He's certainly buffing up a 10-gallon turd. Went to my songwriter friend's house earlier. He is doing some nice landscaping, going to put in outlets for his Christmas lights. Oh my goodness, that's so fun. What a fun job that would be. You know what I mean? Seems kind of fun. I'm a big Christmas in July kind of person, not because of the religion, because I don't give a shit, and it's just a fairy tale. But because I'm an apatheist is what I am. Thanks to Max Flower for defining that I don't really care if there's a God or not, and I just can't be bothered. And I think it's all man-made nonsense. And just a reason to start hating other people for no good reason whatsoever, other than sky daddies. Okay, anyway, but that's my own thing. You know, I respect people that have faith and all those things. I really do. I respect your right to have that faith. But don't push it in my kid's face. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, what was I saying? What was I talking about? I can't remember. Oh, I can't remember. And to use pictures of photos. Yeah, I don't know. You know, like I already said a lot about this on social media, so it's not really necessary to repeat it. But I just I don't want us to go to war with Iran, and I don't think we should have to go to war because Israel, who is already busy with their ethnic cleansing genocide of the Palestinian people. Sorry, not sorry. I mean, that's not my definition. It's the United Nations and probably the criminal court. I think it's the criminal court. So, you know, don't take it on my authority. But what's happening with this bogus Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and their bullshit meal distribution centers is just a big flim-flam, and I'm sick of it. Because it's killing people. In addition to the bombs and shit that they're doing. Sorry, that's how I feel. Hi, Paul Langen. And so I don't really support land grabs and resource grabs, which is really what this is. If you look at the Mar-a-Lago Accord, of all things, you know, the thing that Stephen Moran, the head of the Council of Economic Advisors to the president, he's no small potato. He's no coffee boy. Well, maybe he is, but he came up with a plan last year that part of it was basically an extortion racket that trade, funny enough, economics, would be that national security for trading partners would be part of the deal. And what it came down to was access to things like the stupid mineral deals and other things that they're extorting from Ukraine and other places around the world, I'm sure. So it's actually quite planned this way from a long time ago in terms of using our military as part of a protection racket in exchange for probably ridiculous trade deals, but furthermore, access to natural resources within those countries. So, colonialism. And then kind of the rape of the natural world with AI farms and some, you know, and all the stuff that's going to have to support blockchain and other things. And the fact that AI is going to become much more a part of workforce and everything, really, education, other things. So it's just it's an inevitable thing, and I'm not anti technology at all or innovation. Oh, sorry, here we go.
Defense has just responded last week and admitted that the $1 billion mission that he led against the Houthis, who do not have a navy, has not restored the transit of U.S. flag commercial vessels through the Red Sea, and in fact has resulted in the loss of 2 F-18 Hornets to the tune of $60 million apiece, as well as I believe the last count was 7 Reaper drones to the tune of another $200 million. You are blowing through money like my fellow cadets and I did in our first Liberty after basic camp. Luckily, I didn't end up with a questionable tattoo. Your failures, Mr. Secretary,
Holy
since you've
fuck.
taken office has been staggering. You sent classified operational information over Signal to chest thump in front of your wife, who, by the way, has no security clearance, risking service member lives in the process. You blew the $1 billion fight against the Houthis, whom, again, as my colleague says, has no Navy, and yet you lost all of those aircraft. You've created such a hostile command environment that no one wants to serve as your chief of staff or work with you in other senior DoD leadership roles. But what we should all be talking about more than all of this is that you have an unjustified, un-American misuse of the military in American cities, pulling resources and attention away from core missions to the detriment of the country, the war fighters, and yes, the war fighting that you claim to love. I don't know if this is because you are too inexperienced and incompetent to understand the real threats facing our country, or if it's because you are just an unqualified yes man who can't tell the president how to keep Americans safe. You are focusing on renaming basis for Confederate generals. You said just now to Senator King that to a man and to a woman, we would rather be associated with the old Confederate names. Well, I am one of those women. I served at Fort Rucker, Alabama, a base that was named for a traitor who took arms against the United States of America, led troops who killed Americans. It was renamed for Mike Novosel, a Medal of Honor recipient, who in his citation for the Medal of Honor includes that he saved 29 American lives, to include hovering backwards in a helicopter towards an enemy bunker where a wounded American was laying and saved that person, including after being taken fire himself. I know a little something about what it takes to fly a helicopter when you've been hit by enemy fire. That was heroic. I'd rather be associated with Mike Novosel than a failed Confederate traitor. I don't know whether you are inexperienced or too incompetent, but I wonder when you will actually focus on our nation's warfighting mission. We know that California is just a deliberate, systematic, political, and dangerous campaign led by you. We should not be using our military to play cops against Americans. General Kane, as chairman, a key part of your job is to coordinate military planning across the joint force. Is the department currently incorporating into any military plans expanding the use of the reserve forces to include the National Guard or active duty troops to support domestic law enforcement, including in other locations in the United States?
Senator, we careful.
No, General.
Well, it's not really a yes or no question, Madam Senator.
Oh.
We plan all kinds of different things.
I think it is a yes or no question.
I'm not aware of anything, but the reason why I'm
not
answering is the
aware.
tags may be
Very
looking at
important
something
language.
that I'm not aware of.
What are you doing at your level? You're not aware of that happening at your level? Because we know that on his first day, President Trump directed U.S. Northern Command to revise its unified command plan to add new planning requirements to combat, and I quote, criminal activities. A series of follow-up executive orders continue to redirect DoD priorities to supporting domestic law enforcement, including one in April that tells DoD, and I quote, use national security assets for law and order. In other words, do law enforcement's job. I'd like to enter these executive orders into the record, Mr. Chairman.
Is there objection? Without objection, so ordered.
Secretary Hegseth, you say you are focused on warfighting and warriors. These are your words. Yet you are diverting untold DoD resources and attention to a fundamentally non-military mission of domestic policing. Across the country, we have qualified police officers who are trained for that mission. They know those streets better than the Marines you deploy to Los Angeles.
Believe me, they're very violent on their own.
And you recently approved 700 more troops in 3 other states to do admin and logistics works for ICE. You say all of this is valuable training, but I would much rather have our troops do tough, realistic training relevant to high-end combat. Instead of typing in spreadsheets for ICE, they should be conducting live fire maneuver exercises. Instead of patrolling American neighborhoods and standing in front of federal buildings, they should be rehearsing call for fire missions. We have local police who can stand in front of those federal buildings. And the list of distractions goes on. You are encouraging the DoD workforce to go work for DHS in increasing numbers. You're pulling the military away from facing foreign enemies who literally say things like death to America. And you're putting troops with weapons aimed at Americans. Mr. Secretary, let the military get back to its real job. Stop forcing them to do DHSs. And if you want to be the DHS secretary, maybe you can apply for that job when you're fired from this one due to your incompetence.
The senator's time has expired.
Certified badass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here. I think you all are doing a great job, and the proof is
love
in the
her.
pudding. If you look at morale, you look at recruiting, you look at deterrence. Incredible performance compared to the last administration. So thank you all for your work and in short order as well.
Biden's fault. Oh,
Mr.
I'm
Secretary,
sorry. You know what happens? Sometimes the thing speeds up and I have no problem. I don't know what to do about it.
I thank you to my seatmates on both sides.
The
Thank you,
olive
Mr.
green
Chairman.
is
We take
working,
care of each
ladies.
other. And again, thank you, Chairman Wicker, Ranking Member Reed, for holding this hearing, Mr. Secretary. We
Hey,
have a
Paul
short
Lang, and
amount
I'm
of
sorry I
time,
didn't
so
say
I'm just going to ask
hi.
a few simple questions, and I would just appreciate if, for some of them, you would just answer yes or no. And so, Secretary Hegseth, would you agree that every senior official in the Department of Defense must reflect the values and conduct that our service members must uphold and our citizens expect?
Senator, we want to uphold the highest possible standards.
I'll take that for a yes. So would you also agree then that anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories have no place in our government or military? Yes or no?
They should not.
Thank you. So would you
Oh.
also agree that anyone who has posted, and I'm
But
going
is
to
there a
quote,
but there?
Anti-Semitic conspiracy theories lifted right out of a neo-Nazi playbook, end quote, shouldn't be anywhere near a position of power? Yes or no?
Since I don't believe the characterization of many officials in the news media, I would need to see precisely what's being characterized.
But generally, would you not say that if
Generally
we
speaking,
thought
sure.
something was coming out of a neo-Nazi playbook, it doesn't have any place in our Department of Defense? Now, Secretary Hegseth, the quote that I just read you was referencing Ms. Kingsley Wilson, the DOD press secretary. It's a direct quote from her, who my Republican colleagues on this committee have also expressed alarm over due to her comments. In fact, one colleague said, and I'm going to quote again, "Obviously, I don't agree with her comments. I trust the Pentagon will address this," end quote. However, in the months since, not only have you not addressed these anti-Semitic comments, you have promoted Ms. Wilson. This seems to be at odds, honestly, with President Trump's commitment, very public commitment to combat anti-Semitism, which you just said you two agreed with. So, Secretary Hegseth, given the rise in anti-Semitic violence, hate crimes in our nation, and to show that the Trump administration, your administration, does have a zero-tolerance policy for anti-Semitism, will you dismiss Ms. Kingsley from her role as a U.S. military spokesperson today, yes or no?
Again, that's why I referenced the context and characterization.
Oh, we'll send you the quote,
I've worked
sir.
directly with her. She does a fantastic job, and there's any
Well, there
suggestion that
you
I
go.
or her
So
or others are
we-
party to anti-Semitism is a mischaracterization,
We'd be glad
attempting to
send
win
you this
political
quote,
points.
Sir, and I'm going to say
Senator,
that
you're
your
attempting to
lack of
win
an
political points
answer
on the backs of
confirms what we've
mischaracterizing
known
the
all
statements of a
along.
member
The Trump
of my
administration is
department,
not serious.
and I'm not going to stand for that.
You are not a serious person. You are not serious about rooting out, fighting anti-Semitism within the ranks of our DOD. It's despicable. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Hell
I'm going
yeah.
to move on to General Hawk. The sudden inexplicable dismissal of General Hawk. He serves both director of the National Security Agency, commander of U.S. Cybercom. It's deeply concerning, raises significant questions.
She must have some
about
good
the decision-making
photos and
process,
text
its potential
exchanges.
consequences. Public reports indicate that the removal of General Hawk, who has served his country proudly, has been influenced by
General
social
Poop Hands.
media influencer, personality on social media, Laura Loomer, spreads conspiracy theories. She's been denounced even by Republicans. And the idea is that any leaders within our agencies responsible for our nation's
Well, they
security,
are going in on him
somebody
today.
would
I
be
love
dismissed
this.
based on the advice of a social media influencer is alarming, to say the least. It's surely not how we should be running our military. So were you consulted regarding General Hawk's dismissal, yes or no?
Well, Senator, I would not advise believing everything you read in the media.
Were you,
And I'm
were you
consulted on every
consulted?
single decision.
Okay,
I'm
so
the
that's
decision maker
alarming.
for the
Yes.
It's your
department, and we all
department,
serve
Mr.
at the pleasure
Okay.
of the president.
Okay.
And
So
we have
what
the
was your-
prerogative to
what
make
was
those
your
decisions
what
for
was
the
your
best of the country,
recommendation? Did you
and we did
personally
that.
approve Mr. Hawk's dismissal, yes or no?
Anyone coming or going
Personally
at the
approve
Defense
it.
Department, especially at that level, would ultimately be
So-
a decision
so
made by
that's a
me,
yes.
and I
Did you
stand
personally
behind that.
relieve
Oh,
him?
so he did. So it's a yes.
Did
Excuse
you
me?
personally relieve him? Yes or no?
Anyone at that level
Did you
did,
do
who is
it?
so that's a
relieved
yes.
would be relieved by the Secretary of Defense.
So you did it.
Was there a specific justification for General Hawk's dismissal? Was there a specific Justification for General Hawk's dismissal.
Ma'am, we all serve at the pleasure of the president, and the president deserves the
Is
type
it
of
true?
commanders and advisors that he thinks will best
Did you
equip him
discuss General
to
Hawk's
accomplish the
dismissal with
mission.
Laura Loomer prior to his removal?
I don't discuss who I talk about anything with, but ultimately this is my decision, and he
that's
serves
not
at
a
the pleasure
no.
of the president, and that's why
Not
he's
a
no
no.
longer there.
So do you believe it's appropriate for any social media personality to influence personnel decisions in your department? Yes or no?
I believe your time is up, Senator.
Oh, it is not up to you to tell me when my time is up.
Oh,
Well, the
my
time
fucking
And I am
God.
going to say, Mr.
Censure
Secretary,
him
you're
or
either
whatever.
feckless
What
or
do you do?
complicit. You're not in control of your department. This is unserious. It is shocking. You're not combating anti-Semitism within your ranks. It's a dangerous and pivotal time in our nation's history. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back. And I don't appreciate the smirk, sir. You are the Secretary of Defense.
The time of the gentlelady has expired.
Handle your
Senator
man
Kelly.
there, Wicker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I want to talk about the proposed Golden Dome missile defense system. There's a request to spend $25 billion in this year alone.
Who's asking?
First of all, is this system designed to intercept a full salvo attack?
Senator, it's a multi-layer system that would include different types of salvos. Obviously,
So
any
it's not
system-
just Rogue Nation? Okay.
And,
So,
well, it's meant to, yes, it's not meant to be just one nation. It could be utilized in
against
multiple
Russia and China,
scenarios.
full salvo. So what kind of reliability are you aiming to build into the system? Are we looking for something like 4 nines on intercept success? 99.99%
No,
reliability?
no, don't tell him the
Obviously,
answer.
you seek the highest possible. You begin with what you have and integrating those C2 networks and sensors, building up capabilities that are existing with an eye toward future capabilities that can come online as quickly as possible, not just ground-based, but space-based,
So
all
future,
aspects.
against future capability too. So do you believe that we can build a system that can intercept all incoming threats? You think we could build that system? This is a very hard physics problem.
You would know as well as anybody, sir, how difficult this problem is,
As
and that's
well
why
or
we put
better,
our best
maybe?
people on it. We
As
think
a
the
fucking
American people
astronaut?
deserve it.
So let me
not to be
tell
held
you
in
what
jeopardy
let me
by
tell you what I think we're facing here. You're
ongoing
talking
threats.
about hundreds of ICBMs launched simultaneously, varying trajectories, MIRVs, so multiple reentry vehicles, thousands of decoys, hypersonic glide vehicles, all at once. And considering what the future threat might be, it might even be more complicated than that. And you're proposing spending not just $25 billion, but upwards of, I think CBO estimated this at least $500 billion, other estimates, $1 trillion. I am all for having a system that would work. I am not sure that the
drop the
physics
Discord link.
can get there on this. It's incredibly complicated. So I want to get to another issue that you're facing here. How much of the staff of the Office of the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation did you cut?
After collaboration, sir, with the service departments, the joint staff and others, we identified that as a place where there were redundancies and multiple additional layers that
I'll
were
tell you what you
unnecessary.
cut. You cut
So
74%.
Most of it, that's what I was going to say.
Most of it. And was your decision to cut more than half of the Pentagon's testing and evaluation office staff driven in part by concerns about the office's plan to oversee testing of Golden Dome?
The concerns were not specific to Golden Dome, sir. It was years and years of delays unnecessarily based on redundancies in the decision-making process that the services, COCOMs, and the joint staff, together with OSD, identified as a logjam
Mr.
that was not
Secretary,
helping
to
the process.
get
it
the
was slowing it down.
reliability we would need, you need something that's at 4 nines, 99.99% reliability with all these challenges. And you cut the staff of the people
There's
who
a
are going to make
Discord
sure this thing
invite
works
if you wanna
before
join our
we make it
Discord,
operational,
but
before
you
we
have to be
give it to the
nice, and there's
warfighters.
no funny business.
You got to
We
go
just
back and
do
take
our
a look
shit.
at this. But I also
And,
strongly encourage
just
you
don't be an asshole.
to put together some,
Or I'll
before we
kick your
spend
ass out.
$25 billion or
This is my
$175 billion or $563 billion or $1 trillion, put together a group of people to figure out if the physics will work. You could go down a road here and spend hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of the taxpayer money, get to the end, and we have a system that is not functional. That very well could happen. And you're doing this just because the president, and I understand your role as a Secretary of Defense. You got to execute what the president says. But this idea, might not be fully baked. And you can get in front of it now and figure out and find out if you put the right physicists on this. And I'm not saying go to the big defense contractors. I'm going to scientists, and I know there's a questionable relationship with this administration and scientists, but go to some scientists, figure out what we would have to do to build a system, and then make smart decisions before we spend hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars.
Mark, that's not the point.
Senator, we're doing that, leveraging existing technologies and not premising the project on aspirational technologies, what we can actually do, and would welcome.
Well, $25 billion in the first year is a lot of money. That's more than just figuring out if we have the ability to build a system that can handle a full salvo threat, hypersonic glide vehicles, MERS, thousands of decoys.
I'm a yes and, Mark Kelly.
Thank you, Senator Kelly.
I'm a yes
Senator Sheehy.
and. Push harder on the role of the military and how he's
for
utilizing
General Kane,
it.
curious
Come on
your
now,
thoughts.
That it's
Now
chaos.
you're in the chair officially.
China's
China's building ships about 230 times faster than we do.
Come on.
Our ability to scale our maritime industrial base has
attacking
been the subject of much discussion.
on
and
that.
My biggest concern is we could give the Navy unlimited funds right now, and even that wouldn't be able to fix the problem we have within the existing paradigm. And we have to rethink how we acquire, deploy, and maintain our Navy. As we approach potentially a new CNO taking the seat here, what are we doing at the department level to explore alternative ways like leasing a Navy, like giving private industry the incentive to build stable requirements, towards stable requirements with consistent engineering specs so that they can build to these requirements. Let private industry take some risk and extend themselves on this so we can benefit from the ability and the agility of private industry to solve problems quickly.
Ooh, funds.
Well, sir, thanks for your question. I share your concerns about how fast we're building ships. I'm encouraged, though, by the leadership that the Deputy Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of the Navy,
privatization.
the current acting CNO,
I always get really alarmed
have all been
with that.
leaning into this, as well as the other parts of the department, acquisition and sustainment, and research and engineering.
Sustainment.
I've not heard yet on a leasing discussion. As you know, as a former aviation business owner, there's ops leases and things like that that offer capability at different models. There's been some experience of that on the Hill before. I'm thinking back to Senator McCain had some strong views on leasing in a prior life.
All right.
But I would defer that
Little
conversation
drop
to our OSD colleagues, sir, who would drive that.
Okay. Well, I think we have to think outside the box, and that's true on all defense acquisition programs, and I welcome either of your thoughts as well. Senator Warren and I actually have recently partnered on an initiative that is praising what Secretary Driscoll's done at the Army side to expand the flexibility of the services to have more alternative pathways. I go back to our MRAP program about 15 years ago, a program which saved my life and the lives of many other servicemen, I'm sure in this room as well. So finding alternative ways to acquire things is really what we have to do now. And if we continue to try to jam, a turkey into the garbage disposal and just give more and more money to a process that frankly has been failing for decades, I think we need to try to fix the process first. And I'd be curious as to either of your thoughts, an open response as to what we can do immediately here to start reforming our defense acquisition paradigm so we can keep pace with, it's not a near peer threat with China, they are a peer. So it is a peer-to-peer threat. How are we going to reform our industrial base to keep pace with it?
Sure, I think this could be a much longer conversation, which I'm happy to have.
The Secretary of Defense must go. Creating a polarized and partisan military is the most dangerous threat to America and its citizens.
Here in this committee and the other side, the leaders in the department, the leaders in industry, it feels like we have the team now who will actually move the ball.
This is going deep day.
Grab a hold of that entrepreneurial spirit that America is so well known for and get after it.
Thursday.
We cannot, I'm mindful of the work that's been done before.
really
We
a picture of
cannot
him?
continue to move on the same trajectory,
in
and we
a wet
must get
t-shirt
after
contest?
this. We owe it to the Joint Force to be properly armed
like
at
his-
scale
you can
with the
see his
right
tattoos.
capabilities so that they can win and come home. And so I'd love to
Yeah.
partner with you on that,
Really?
as I know
Because
our
your
OSD
boss
colleagues
is just
would as
basically
well.
putting everybody
When the speed at which we've
in
solved
the
our
Middle East who is
recruiting
serving on
challenges,
behalf of
hopefully
the
we can do the same
United States
thing
in
with the ability
danger,
to make
plus
bullets, bombs,
citizens.
artillery shells, planes and
So
ships.
what the fuck
because,
are you even
We owe
doing?
it to the 17, 18,
New
19-year-old
Year's
kids who are
Eve
going to be
Fox
fighting these
party
systems on the
jokes.
front line to make sure they have enough of them to replace attrition, and
awesome.
also that those systems are as good as they can be
All right,
when they need
okay.
them. Thanks
All right,
for your
Skippy.
time today.
I wonder who
Senator
Skippy
Sheehy
gets
and,
funded by. I'm going to find out. I wrote his
General,
name
would,
down.
Love to be part of that longer conversation
yeah,
about that
okay.
issue. Thank you, Senator Sheehy.
Thank you, Senator
Senator Slotkin.
Okay, bye. You going to go poop?
Thank
Everybody
you,
wore
Chairman.
olive.
Mr.
This a
Secretary, I
thing?
said in your hearing, when you had your confirmation hearing, that my biggest concern with you at the helm was the potential use of the military in ways that contradict the Constitution or that taint what I
He said
hope we
that?
all want, which is an apolitical military. And when I asked you about whether you would accept an order that was actually given to your predecessor, Secretary Esper, Trump's SecDef, to deploy active duty troops against unarmed protesters and to, in Secretary Esper's words, shoot at them, shoot at their legs. You said this was all theoretical. Here we are, a few months later, you've deployed 4,700 troops to Los Angeles and against the wishes of the governor. And my colleague across the aisle was right. It is the first time since 1965 that we have deployed Guard troops without the permission of the governor. In all the instances he laid out, the president had sent in the military to protect protesters, not against the protesters. So you may dismiss it, but I feel like this is a fundamental issue of American democracy. If you love your country and you want an apolitical military, then it should be the last resort, not the first resort in our country to use them. So
It
to get to the
certainly
non-theoretical, have you authorized the uniformed military
shoot
to
first and
detain or
early.
arrest protesters in Los Angeles?
Senator, I would just start by saying you're
Just-
not a protester if you're throwing concrete
100%.
at law
Arrest those
enforcement
people.
officers.
Throw them in the jail. 100%.
Where are they?
But what you're doing is something different. Everyone knows
I
this
didn't
is a
see 'em.
political decision, right? So we don't trust that you're using the best interests of the military, certainly.
They're whining and soaking up overtime, okay?
So
That's
have
what's
you
happening,
given the
not the
order? That's all I
military,
want to know.
but
It's
the
not
LAPD
theoretical.
and the
For
sheriffs
the U.S.
and the
military,
CHP.
military, not law enforcement. They can arrest all day long. That's their job. Do they have the ability, the uniformed military, to arrest and detain
But the
protesters
DHS
currently
police
today?
are the ones shooting first and early.
It's a yes or no thing. Authority.
It's sort of amusing the extent to which the speculation is out there. These troops are given very clear orders.
Then what is
to-
the order? Then list it out for us.
It's all
Be a
been
man. List it out.
It's all-
Did you authorize them to detain or arrest? That is a fundamental issue of democracy. I'm not trying to be a snot here. I'm just trying to get the actual. Did you authorize them
now
to
they're
do
going to
that?
call her snot.
All of these orders and what they're sent there to do are public. They are
Okay,
there
so
to.
say it. So say it. Yes or no?
I'd like to.
Please. Yes or no?
As I've said time and time again through interruption, they're there to protect law enforcement,
they have
ICE
the ability
officers
to arrest-
who are trying to do their job,
Okay.
deporting illegals who were allowed in by the previous
So
administration.
they cannot arrest and detain citizens of the United States, the uniformed military.
As
Is
we've
that right?
stated, if necessary, in their own self-defense, they could temporarily detain and
Have
hand
you-
over to ICE. But
have
there's no
you given-
arresting going
have
on.
you-
And you know this better
Have
than
you
you're trying to
authorized
play
the
political
US
games.
military
There's
to
no
use
arresting
cyber
of U.S.
tools
personnel.
of the U.S. military against members of the protest? Have you authorized U.S. military cyber tools to investigate people participating in these protests? Yes or no?
Certainly in no way that I'd be aware of.
Okay, that's good. I love that answer.
Oh,
That's great. Have
okay,
you
on the record,
given
baby.
the order to be able to shoot at unarmed protesters
You might want to talk
in
to the
any
U.S.
way.
attorney in Los Angeles.
I'm just asking the
though.
question. Don't
For
laugh.
the Central
Like
District.
the whole country. And by the way, my colleagues
What is
across
that
the
based
aisle.
on? What evidence would you
It
have
is
that an
based
order
on
like that has
Donald
ever
Trump
been given?
giving that order to your predecessor, to a Republican Secretary of Defense, who I give a lot of credit to because he didn't accept the order. He had more guts and balls than you because he said, I'm not going to send in the uniformed military to do something that I know in my gut isn't right. He was asked to shoot at their legs. He wrote that in his book. That's not hearsay. So your poo-pooing of this, it just shows you don't understand who we are as a country. Who we are. And all of my colleagues across the aisle, especially the ones that served, should want an apolitical military and not want citizens to be scared of their own military. I love the military. I served alongside my whole life, so I'm worried about you tainting it. Have you given the order? Have you given the order that they can use lethal force against honor? I want the answer to be no. Please tell me it's no. Have you given the order?
Senator, I'd be careful what you read in books and believing it, except for the Bible.
Shut up.
So your former predecessor, I guess that's not enough for you. Okay, on Iran, I don't think there's a debate. There's like a cat fight going on in your own party about whether to go after Iran. Have you commissioned any day after planning? So any force protection, any use of ground troops in Iran, any cost assessments? Because I don't think we doubt what we can do as a country in the attack. It's the day after with Iraq and Afghanistan that so many of us have learned to be so deeply concerned about. Have you authorized day after planning?
As I've said, we have plans for everything, Senator.
Okay.
This is what we want.
I would also reiterate how we began.
Marble
that there
mouth.
will be a classified portion of this 15 minutes after we adjourn. Senator Banks, you're recognized.
An apolitical military. Secretary, wouldn't you say that in the last administration under Joe Biden, Secretary Austin, Mark Milley,
okay, wait, that's a line.
we've never seen the military politicized in a way that it was over those 4 years?
Senator, I would say our mission has been to take the politics out of the military, take the ideology out of the military. And as a result, you've seen the response of young Americans who have, I called it a bump at first. I just want to correct that, Senator. It's been a tsunami. It's been a historic response of young Americans.
I want to unpack it.
Who are joining.
I want to unpack this with you, Mr. Secretary. Prior to President Trump's election, the military was struggling with the worst recruitment crisis in 50 years.
That's what we're going to. Okay, insurrectionist
loser. That all
loser.
seemed to have changed overnight on one specific day. And the
Oh, sorry.
And President Biden
sorry,
was
insurrectionist.
to the entire period. So you're suggesting that the significant ramp
18,
up took
what is
place
it,
immediately
Maxflower?
after the election day, which would have
Well,
been
Leviticus 19 to
20
28.
days of
But also, what is it,
November
Kings?
That's exactly what I'm suggesting.
I'm sorry, I'm
Senator.
speaking
The
over him.
numbers
I'll
speak
stop.
for
Do
themselves.
you have any data to suggest that?
The general of the Army told me so, and I'm happy to. Yeah, if you ask for those numbers from the Army, you'll see the same dynamic that I have. The election of Donald Trump, serving as the election of him, and the indication to those recruits around the country that he's going to become the commander-in-chief actually mattered, and those numbers have risen dramatically ever since Election Day.
There was no impact of the administration's activities over several years before that, and also through the period of November 23, which was encompassed the Biden administration. It's funny.
Yeah,
you
we
get
looked
a
at that
Trump
data,
bump
actually.
while Biden is president of the United States. So I'd be curious to see that data.
I think it's
Thank you.
incredible as well, sir.
Unbelievable might be a better word.
Are there further questions? We're sort of now into the second round of questioning. Without objection, we will close this portion, and
Okay,
if
they're gonna
our
go into their
members
blue
and
blah bloop.
witnesses could.
Wow. Okay, wow. Wow, you can really dance. Wow, you can really dance. Do 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 do. Well, right now they're in classified session, hearing all the tea, as the kids would say. Don't go anywhere. I'm not done with you yet. I'm not done with you yet. Yeah. Let me just get something that's relevant to what we just watched. That one we read. Hold on, darlings. Hold on. Oh no, that's the other thing, and that's that thing, and what's that thing? That's that thing. Oh, here. Actually, yeah, this is a good one. All right. Let's see. Oh shoot. 7-day free trial. What does that mean? I don't want. I want to do that. What? I don't want to subscribe. I'm so sorry. Can I just read it? Okay. Can I just read it? No. Oh, okay. You know what? I don't do that. So F off. F off, sir. Okay. Yeah, no. Fuck this. For paid subs. No, I'm sorry. I don't have money to give everybody. Let's see. There's this one. There's that. Okay. Oh my gosh, I've got such good stuff. We were reading about the MIT technology review on the phone, so I'm going to make sure I put that link in there as well. And then we did read about the fucking Supreme Court. Let's see if there's anything else I need to read. All right, I'm going to start with this one. Because I wanna. They have blocked the wait, what? Wait, Meowing Star what? They have blocked the 988 suicide hotline from providing LGBTQ support as of today, knowing the Supreme Court ruling's devastating effect. I just can't. Oh my God, Meowing Star, I don't even understand that. I don't understand what we're doing to each other. Why is there so much fucking I mean, I understand that hate exists and it's its roots and all the nonsense. I feel like some of these things aren't getting as much attention as they should be, and I don't understand that. And I might just be out of the loop on the mainstream medias, but I don't sense that it's coming through in the media that I'm seeing. All I'm seeing is more and more targeted hate at all the communities within the LGBTQ plus trans communities. Sorry, I know that's redundant. Forgive me. But I'm just like, trans people in particular are under attack as well as and DEI. I just feel like DEI happened early on, and now it's almost like the Overton window is moving and we're not doing enough. Okay, that's just my perception, so I just want to be careful because I'm not trying to speak for, oh, this is what's happening in the world. I'm just trying to express that I feel like in the zeitgeist right now, yes, DEI is constantly coming up, but I don't see it at a level that's really consistent among the larger messaging. I could be wrong, so maybe I should just stop because I probably don't know what I'm talking about. Always an opportunity for that. Okay, let's see. I don't think I'm gonna watch the Joe Biden mental state hearing because I feel like that's just trauma porn that they want us to watch. But I do want to read this. Hold on, I'm not sure. Where did I go? Oh, I was looking to see about the change in the 988. Go to this. What is this? So all text chat. The 988 page under LGBTQI is still available, but I don't know what happens if you start to click the links for access to services. But I don't. Again, I heard that. I remember the executive order that was issued in relation to that. So I'm just wondering when they're formalizing the. Oops, that's not the one. That's the one. I wonder if they're formalizing that in any way. More so, it sounds like from what you're reporting, they are, which is very upsetting. can't. I just can't. Like, fuck, man. And we need that. I hope we can really get, the hate is so real, so palpable. I really hope that we can continue what started last Saturday. That was great. I've never seen so many people. Well, I've never seen so many people in Beverly Hills ever for anything in the last 5 years that I've lived here and gone in that area to see what's happening protest wise. It's been woefully underrepresented. But to that point, I just wonder if we can at least get some momentum, because this is only getting worse by the day. Like, they're doing this really bad motherfucking shit every day, and everything is a distraction for something else. You know what I mean? Like, it's all working to their advantage in that regard. So, yeah. Yeah, apparently it was quite big. I wish Dems in the Biden hearing would bring up dementia type things that Trump did, but then attribute them to Biden. Then when ours agree that dementia, say, "Oh, whoops, I was talking about Trump, not Biden." That's a great idea, Karen. I love that idea. All right, I want to go ahead and read this article, if you don't mind. I have to look over in this direction to see the big print. The big print. So this one, I believe, actually might have come from Teresa or Gal. We could try and make an effort to oust Kingsley Wilson at DOD. Baby steps in the abso-frickin-lutely. I believe the pressure on those things, on those very, on the people that have demonstrated who they are over and over again. I think documenting, putting them on the record, putting them in the hot seat. That was one of the better hearings that I've experienced. I don't know about you all, but that hearing actually was much more the line of questioning and the tone and tenor that I would hope would come at this critical moment where I literally I can't wrap my head around the fact that there are that people who are in our armed forces are now just pawns and having to be involved in a war started by another country. And I get historical, et cetera, but the fact of the matter is they've got a genocide going on in Palestine. Why in the world was this the moment? Or was it having to do with Trump's visit to the Middle East with the Saudis, the Qataris, et cetera? Right? What's wrapped in what? And we can't just, well, I'm talking to myself. I can't just say, "Oh, well, that's the way things work anymore." We have to stop the madness and call it out. And I know this is a marathon. Boy, that's what I sense. And I understand. Sorry. I'm starting to sound really stupid and naive. I'm going to stop. Okay, I'm going to read this. Smarter people. Okay, I'm obsessed with Russ Vogt. That's right, because one of the architects of all of the fucking I don't know if Syria is really an ally. I'm not too sure of the relationships between the group in running Syria and the Iranian leadership. I'm not entirely sure. And I don't know. Isn't there I don't remember who else. Forgive me. I don't know enough to speak on that particular region of the conflict, because there's many countries that are involved in some one way or another. The Houthis. Oh yeah, the Houthis in Yemen. Yeah, that's true. And yeah. Anyway, I don't want people to be scared. I don't want them to be bombed over greed and corrupt men, mostly. Some women, but a lot of men. So I just want that to stop, and it has to stop. I mean, the more perfect union, the more perfect world. This is I feel like this is a real moment, in kind of the history of our conscious world, I guess. I don't know. It's just kind of I don't know what the unconscious world is. Probably the people who, yeah, I don't know. I don't know who they are. Chuds? I'm not sure. They're probably the unconscious ones. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm going to read this, I promise. Anyway, I'm obsessed with Russ Vogt, because I really, one of the things that Gal and others in the Gal Squad, which is just a group of friends, really taught me as I watched their research kind of develop and how they tease things out from the source documents and stuff, is really focus on the planners, right? Focus on the funders, focus on the people behind the scenes who aren't, flamboyant like Dump is or Stephen Miller, or any of this cabinet, frankly. This cabinet is performance art, right? We realize that obviously at this corner of the internet. We realize that this cabinet is pure performance art and it's bad performance art. And trust me, I love really, really bad performance art. I live for that. I fucking live for that. But they're just the clowns that come out during the beginning of the circus. But what we want to keep our eye on is the ringmaster and the riggers of the entire circus and who's running that. Not to mention who's corporately sponsoring it. Yeah, the ideological architecture comes from the shadows. And so one of the great things I've learned over the past 5 years around just being more aware of just the impact of politics and things, which has really led me to a more apolitical thinking, which is more in line with what I focus on, which is really what is the human right involved here and how do we make it better for everybody, regardless of what their ideological, and can the people with the ideological misalignment, which is like racism and bigotry and all that shit, can they just shut the fuck up again? Or not again. Can they just shut the fuck up? Some of it went under the rocks for a minute. I realize from my perspective, it's a completely different experience. So for the people that really matter in this equation, it's never changed. And it probably only probably really gotten worse under this particular administration, who basically showed you in public that as the administration in the most powerful office in the world, you too can be racist, bigoted, and throw dog whistle after dog whistle, as well as policy after policy that really impacts communities across the spectrum of America. So anyway, all that to say, I find these stories particularly important because these are the people that have arisen in my eyes and others, that they are really important to the suffering that's being caused right now on many levels and the suffering to come, if there is to come, which it looks like there might be. Anyway, so this is a New York Times article. White House eyes rarely used power to override Congress on spending. The president's top aides have signaled they may seize a timing quirk in law to cancel enacted funds, setting up a clash over the power of the purse. And that's Russ Vought, and he's one of the most evil motherfuckers on the face of the fucking planet. Big into Project 2025, big Christian nationalist, big into impounding appropriated funds and not paying grants and other things. He's helping Doggy with data and all the other stuff. So he's really one of the I don't know, just a dick, just a real dick. But what he really is director. What he also is director of the White House Office of Management and Budget, which is, of course, the checkbook of the executive branch. And he told lawmakers on Capitol Hill this month that there were all manner of provisions that could help the president cut spending, even without the help of Congress. This was June 17th, so fairly recent story. Let me make it a little bigger for everyone to see. La la la. And this is Tony Rum reporting from Washington. The White House is signaling it may soon invoke a little-known and legally untested power to try and cancel billions of dollars in federal spending, as President Trump's top aides look for novel ways to reconfigure the budget without obtaining the explicit approval of Congress. Under the emerging plan, the Trump administration would wait until closer to September 30th, the end of the fiscal year, to formally ask lawmakers to claw back a set of funds it has targeted for cuts. Even if Congress fails to vote on the request, the president's timing would trigger a law that freezes the money until it ultimately expires. The idea is known as a pocket rescission, and it has been invoked only in limited circumstances over the past half century. The Government Accountability Office, a nonpartisan oversight body that reports to Capitol Hill, ruled during the first Trump administration that pocket recession is illegal, citing Supreme Court precedent as it reversed previous stance that the law may permit the power's use. But Russ Vought, the director of Office of Management and Budget and just a real general prick, has increasingly brandished the maneuver as an ultimatum to Congress, warning that the White House may test the limits of its authority to act unilaterally unless Congress hastens its work to cut spending. Mr. Vought has said pocket recession could also allow the administration to achieve some of the deep cuts identified by, you guessed it, Doggy, who now has all of the data that it needs to feed the AI models into XAI so that from a federal government AI operation, i.e. contract, i.e. trillions, Mr. Musk gets his exit prize, which is quite a great prize for a stupid apology to the fat orange guy. Sorry, I don't mean to body shame him, but punching up. And Elmo just walks away with real big contracts in addition to the SpaceX and basically trying to take over NASA. So there's that. So Tesla, who cares? Anyway, that's my elevator's pitch on Elmo and the fact that he's sitting pretty, loving life in a K-hole, but as a trillionaire. If the White House proceeds, its actions could touch off a high-stakes legal battle over the power of the purse, which the Constitution affords to Congress. Mr. Vought at times has openly courted this sort of showdown, as he broadly asserts that the president wields expansive powers over federal spending. It's a provision that has been rarely used, but it is there, Mr. Vought said in little noticed remarks on pocket rescission during a recent appearance on CNN. And we intend to use all of these tools. Mr. Vought teased the idea again on a call with reporters earlier in June, describing pocket rescission as a tool to cut spending without having to get an affirmative vote from Congress. Appearing at a House hearing that same week, Mr. Vought stressed to lawmakers that there were all manner of provisions available to the president to enact his fiscal vision. The whole point of the law is to make sure that the funds are prudently obligated, said Bobby Kogan, a budget aide under former President Joe Biden, who is now serving as Senior Director of Federal Budget Policy at the Center for American Progress, a left-leaning group. This would deny that. Sorry. I'm having trouble with my voice this morning. Mr. Vought's claims illustrate the widening chasm between Democrats in Congress and the White House over the future of the nation's budget. This is all self-inflicted wounds. All right? These are all self-inflicted wounds. Think about that for a minute. Think about what has been voted into office. It should frighten, I hope it frightens everyone. I know it frightens all of us. Mr. Vought's claims illustrate the widening chasm between Democrats. The feud originated in the early days of Mr. Trump's term when he froze nearly all federal spending in a move that foreshadowed the aggressive tactics he would employ to conform the budget to his political views. The two top Democrats overseeing appropriations, Representative Rosa DeLauro of Connecticut and Senator Patty Murray of Washington, estimated in a recent report that the White House had already slowed or frozen delivery of at least $425 billion in funding enacted by Congress. The delays have affected money meant to facilitate cancer research, fund child care centers, and help communities recover from natural disasters, according to the analysis which the White House contests. And what's interesting about that is that one may not understand that the grant process to get grants out of these federal programs is the most rigorous grant process. And frankly, over my career, I avoided it like the plague because just the reporting, the amount of paperwork that was needed, the bureaucracy, and the evaluation level, and just the narrowness of the funding and how it could be spent, literally, like by the penny, and the fact that all that money had to be reported on with activities, with narratives, with evaluation, all of the things, had to have a plan going in, had to have all that stuff set up going in. The rigor that it takes to secure a government grant is beyond complex. And I did it for 22 years. So I know what I'm fucking talking about. Anyway, so it's really bigger than that. You know, the fact that they can freeze or slow down funding, that's like life altering for organizations. That means people get fired, furloughed, projects stop, services aren't rendered, you know, all kinds of things ripple out from that that'll never be on the news. Or it will be in a retrospective and we'll all go, oh man, I wish we had done something about that when it happened. Okay, sorry. Another speech. Speech day, speech day. Relevant and terrifying. I'm just going to hop to that just to see what's relevant and terrifying. Damn. Let's see. This is from Justice. We love Justice. So definitely follow her. Now Silicon Army officers, Palantir, Meta, OpenAI, the 4 men are being commissioned at the high rank of lieutenant colonel as part of a program in detachment. Wait, what? Wait, what? The Army said in a press release that the 4 executives, wait, what? Excuse me? The Army said in a press release that the 4 executives are Shyam Sankar, CTO at Palantir, Andrew Bosworth, CTO at Meta, Kevin Weil, Chief Product Officer of OpenAI, and Bob McGrew, an advisor at Thinking Machines Lab and former Chief Research Officer for OpenAI. It's a Gizmodo piece. Well, we're jumping around, okay? Just hang in there. Please just hang in there. We're just going to jump a bit. Silicon Valley execs join the Army as officers but won't have to attend a boot camp. This is today in Gizmodo. Oh my God. I don't need that. The U.S. military recently announced that 4 executives from some of the top tech companies in Silicon Valley have joined the Army Reserve as direct commissioned officers. The move is part of a push to speed up the adoption of technology in the military, but as the news outlet Task and Purpose points out, it's pretty unusual. Okay. The Army said in a press release that the 4, okay, so we read that. The 4 men are being commissioned at the high rank of lieutenant colonel as part of a program called Detachment 201, the Army's Executive Innovation Corps. As Task and Purpose notes, the men will get to skip the usual process of taking a direct commissioning course at Fort Benning, Georgia, and they won't need to complete the Army fitness test. Do they do background checks? At least? The Army didn't respond to questions emailed Tuesday, but said in a statement published on its website, "Oh my God, are people buying places in the military now? What's happening, gal? What's happening right now? This is really bad. This feels super bad." Okay. Their role in the Army Reserve is to work on targeted projects to help guide rapid and scalable tech solutions to complex problems, as the Army puts it. Oh, move fast and break things. Yeah, it's written on the wall at Meta. I was there. They write it on the wall in the entrance part where you check in. The new reservists will serve for about 120 hours a year, according to the Wall Street Journal, and will have a lot of flexibility to work remotely. They'll work on helping the Army acquire more commercial tech, though it's not clear how conflict of interest issues will be enforced, given the fact that the people all work for companies that would conceivably be selling their wares to the military. In theory, they won't be sharing information with their companies or participating in projects that could provide them or their companies with financial gain, according to the Journal. They just lie, okay? They just lie and say they'll just tell you all the shit you want to hear, okay? And then they'll just go, oh, oops, national security. Oops. Oops. I don't know. Good question. Do they get military benefits? I would imagine they get whatever reservists get. Yes, Jane. Silicon Valley has always benefited greatly from ties to the U.S. military. Yes, true. Silicon Valley companies were bringing in $5 billion annually from defense contracts during the Reagan administration, something that the average person may not remember about the 1980s. But it's always been an uneasy alliance for consumer-facing tech companies, especially over recent decades. That's all changing, according to many folks who align more with President Trump, who was once considered a shameful person to represent impolite company. That was so 20 whatever. As Andrew Bosworth, the CTO at Meta, who is joining the Army Reserves, told the Wall Street Journal, there's a lot of patriotism that has been under the covers that I think is coming to light in the Valley. Oh my God, there's just so much. It's just so much. No, Val, we're not. We're not. Bosworth and his buddies can be a bit more open about their goals now that Trumpism has been more normalized in the president's second term, but they also run the risk of hitching their wagons and the reputation of the companies they represent to a president who's famous for acting recklessly. Oh my God, Gizmodo, you've lost the lead. Gizmodo, stop focusing on the orange man. Come on. After all, this is the guy who just a couple of days ago told Tehran, a city of 10 million people, to evacuate, and is heavily suggesting he's going to get the U.S. into a war with Iran. Some people may think that's a good thing, and at the very least, it might be a wise business decision for some firm like Palantir to hope for war. But OpenAI and Meta have a lot of products that depend on buy-in from the general public. And we've seen guys like Elon Musk take huge hits to their bottom lines after attaching themselves to Trumpism. And with Trump at the helm, any association with the army is bound to be perilous in a time of war. We all saw the viral videos of Trump's parade, right? It's the Chans. Oh, mama, please take me now. Take me now. Take me now. Take me now. Take me now, take me now. Listen, look at these. Oh wait, those are updated. Oh, that's right. This is archive. Okay. We're going back to the Jurassic Park. No, we're going back to OMB director Russ Vought. I don't know, darlings. I don't know, my darlings. I voted for the lady who laughed too much. No, I'm just kidding. Not that I'm again. I've always said this. I'm not voting for a person. I'm voting for an administration and what they're capable of doing. And when they're not capable or willing to do what we, the collective and the people, think is right around human rights and other things, that is when we protest and push them. And I would far rather deal with an administration that was at least a little bit closer to the right thing than have complete Nazis and tech bros take over at rates that are just boggling the mind, and everyone is missing the lead and taking the bait. And I don't blame them, because whatever. They have far more people in their audience than I do, and so it probably behooves them to do that. But at the end of the day, we're refusing to call a thing, it feels like, in some ways, in some contexts. And I blame Kara Swisher. No. I do wish Kara Swisher had been a little bit more of a investigative, pushy journalist. You know what I mean? I appreciate her journalism. Don't get me wrong. I have a ton of respect for that. I just wish she had been a bit more of a, less of a, I dare use the word simp. I don't want to be too brutal. But she does feel a bit simpy sometimes in past interviews. But that, again, I can't throw stones about people and how they do their stuff. I mean, she's creating her own thing. But I think she is capable of so much more holding accountable these tech bros, because she's very good at the direct questioning and other things. Anyway, so that's my other TED Talk. Man, I am just full of fucking opinions today. Sorry. Smile more. Smile more. I know. We are a republic. It's so true. It is true. It's all true. Free your mind and the rest will follow. All right. OMB Director Vogt presumes he can go around the back of the president, the Congress, and the American people to assert a unilateral power over spending for himself above all others, Ms. DeLauro said in a statement. We love Rosa DeLauro. Watchdogs at the Government Accountability Office have opened more than 36 investigations to determine if some of Mr. Dump's spending actions are illegal. Oh, well, that's great. 36 investigations. On Monday, the GAO determined that the administration broke the law when it halted federal funding for libraries as part of the president's plan to curtail regulatory overreach. Sorry, I'm in the hysteria phase. Okay, I'm past I'm in that phase of grief. I'm in the hysteria, and dinosaur suits. I'm in that too. I'm trying to think about. I have a dentist appointment this afternoon, so I have to figure out what I'm going to accomplish. I have something I need to do for Val really urgently, so I'm probably going to do that. But other than that, I need to go out. I need to get out there. The dino needs to be out there. The dino needs to be anyway, whatever. That's just me for my own sake, for my own mental health. Okay. What did we say here? Okay, the Oversight Office classified that interruption as an illegal impoundment, which is restricted under a 1970s law enacted in response to former President Richard Nixon, who repeatedly sought to block the disbursement of money enacted by Congress. Oh, been here, done that. Under Mr. Dump, the White House previously denied similar charges, accused the Accountability Office of partisan bias, well, that's putting it mildly, and maintained the law itself is unconstitutional, based on nothing, based on feelings. Still, Mr. Vogt has sought ways to use the anti-impoundment law to his advantage. Like many of his predecessors, Mr. Dump can invoke another part of the statute to ask Congress to cancel money that lawmakers have already approved. The highly orchestrated process known as rescission permits the president to identify money that he wants to revoke and then ask the House and Senate to vote to claw the funds back. Mr. Dump availed himself of that power when he sent Congress a package outlining $9 billion in cuts to foreign aid and public broadcasting, which the House adopted last week. Under the law, his official rescission request freezes the money for 45 days while lawmakers debate it, and if they fail to act on the request, the funds must be spent as intended. But the White House has suggested it may further try to leverage this timeline by submitting the rescission request closer to the end of the fiscal year. Even if Congress does not vote on it within the 45-day window, the funds may be canceled anyway, since unspent money does not typically roll over into the next fiscal period. Mr. Dump's aides have described this move as a pocket rescission and signaled that they could invoke it if lawmakers do not deliver the magnitude of cuts sought by the White House, according to a senior administration official who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe continuing deliberations. Mr. Vogt floated the idea of a pocket rescission while serving as the budget chief in Mr. Trump's first term. Mark Paoletta. Where's Tina? Anybody? Tina's an expert on Mark Paoletta. The general counsel of the Budget Office argued its legality in a 2018 letter viewed by the New York Times, which claimed that the law, quote, places no limit on how late in the fiscal year the president may begin the process. The concept emerged under President Gerald Ford, shocker, who proposed multiple rescissions to Congress in 1975, some of which arrived in the final days of that fiscal year. Lawmakers acted on only some of his requests before time ran out, and as a result, about $10 million that Mr. Ford targeted for rescission but that Congress had not voted on, essentially expired anyway, according to congressional records. This is why congressional records are very important, even though they can feel pedantic. Studying the matter at the time, the Government Accountability Office said the incident exposed a major deficiency in the recently enacted law meant to constrain the president on spending. It recommended a series of changes to the anti-impoundment rules to prevent the problem from occurring again. Congress never adopted any of the recommendations. The office explicitly inveighed against the idea more than 40 years later. In a 2018 report requested by Democrats, the nonpartisan watchdog found that the law does not permit the withholding of funds through their date of expiration. Matthew Lawrence, a professor at Emory University and an expert on administrative law, said the conclusion underscored the text and purpose of the anti-impoundment law, which is to prevent unilateral executive refusals to spend. But Mr. Vogt and his allies still have sought to use earlier reports from the Accountability Office to justify their new threats to cancel funds. In a paper issued last month, the Center for Renewing America, another institute of mass destruction, founded a conservative nonprofit. That's what we're calling it, a terrorist. Or no, he's not a terrorist. Well, he might be. He might be a pocket terrorist. Can we call them that? Pocket domestic terrorists? A conservative nonprofit founded by Mr. Vogt said decades of congressional inaction meant that a pocket rescission remains consistent with the law. What law? I don't know. You look it up. Go Google it. That's what he said. No, he didn't say that. I said he said that. A rescission is a viable tool for carrying out the broader political mandate to curb unnecessary spending, a senior advisor for the group wrote. All these links will be available in the description of the video by tonight. So if you want to come back or share the archive link of this article or other things, just check back a few hours later, or maybe tonight, and the description will have all of these links for you. In line with what we just read, I know I'm keeping you very long, but it's really, I have so much that I think is interesting. So for what it's worth, let me get to, what is it? No, that's me. Hi. That's that. Hold on. Let me find that other video. Hold on just a minute. Wait, is it over here? Is it over? No. Dang. Okay, hold on. I gotta pull it up again. I gotta pull up this thing again. Uh-oh. Is my show down? Or have I just put you all to sleep? Which is totally understandable and frankly would be kind of nice if you were able to take a nap and just have this going in the background. I love being in the background. I think it's really kind of cozy and nice. It's hygge. What do they call that? Hygge in Nordic countries. Still there. Whoop, whoop. Hell yeah. All right, let's see here. Yay. Oh, you guys, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do roll call. Sorry. I just wanted to make sure I didn't hit a button that was kind of dumb. All right, so let me show you, because there was this Heather Cox Richardson very short video on this probably on this very topic, I'm hoping. I didn't actually get a chance to see it, but I thought, oh boy, this looks really interesting. And of course, we love Heather Cox Richardson, amazing historian. Where is it? There she is. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Bow. Okay, hold on, Heather, because I got to get you on the big screen. I got to get you on the big screen, baby. There we go. All right, so this is an 8-minute piece filed yesterday, I believe. I'll find out. I think it was yesterday. It might have been this morning. Been listening since 6:35. Well, girl. Oh, I love the cranky old broad zone. Oh, my favorite. I love it. Smoke weed every day if you want to. I don't care. I'm not your mom. All right. Okay, so let me show you this because I think I want to hear what she has to say because I think these things are related. This is why the Trump administration is rushing the budget reconciliation bill through, which is constantly a question in my head. Why the rush? Why does it have to happen? I know it has to happen because there's a certain amount of revenue or regulatory pieces that need to be in place for people to reshore things, for companies. I don't know if that's just their pipe dream or they're just using that as an excuse to kind of, give breaks to billionaires, which I think is probably the case. But anyway, not the point. All right, here we go. So let's listen to a really smart woman. Oops.
That has gotten a lot of attention, but I want to make sure it gets more attention. And that I've talked about before, and I had, outdoor journalist Wes Seiler to interview to talk about this. And last week I interviewed former Senator John Tester from Montana about this. But the story of the Trump administration's attack on our public lands has gotten even more extreme. What has happened is that we knew that in this budget reconciliation bill, that the Republicans are desperate to pass, there was a requirement for the sale of up to 3.3 million acres of land. and that it was mandated in the budget reconciliation bill. And there's any number of reasons why this is simply a handoff to oil and gas, real estate interests, and possibly ranching interests, not least that our public lands actually make money for the American people. They don't lose money, but the idea is to sell these off and use the profits from that sale to pay off the deficit. Theory is that will be good for the American taxpayer, but the reality is that will take away this actually incredibly valuable set of public lands that do actually produce money for us every year. This would be a one-year deal once they're sold off. But also, it's pretty clearly a handoff to big business of American assets. The other thing that I don't like about the sale of public lands is that our public lands currently support small businesses. They support mom and pop industries, and those sorts of industries, especially in rural areas, enable the preservation of democracy because people don't have to work for some company or some mining interest or some real estate firm or in the real estate that it produces. Instead, they have their small organizations or their small businesses that enable them to, support themselves, maybe hire one or two people, and really create the basis for fairness and for democracy. And one of the things that has always happened in the American West is that it has tended to be monopolized by a very few major players who monopolize first the resources and then the government, and then nobody else can get a foothold. And that seems very much what's going on here now. Anyway, we knew that in the bill there was a requirement for the sale of about up to 3.3 million acres of land, an area a bit smaller than the state of Connecticut. But since then, the Senate Energy and National Resources Committee, headed by Senator Mike Lee, who's a Republican of Utah, and the guy who's in such hot water over his making fun of the shootings in Minnesota last weekend, along with Senator Steve Daines, who's from Montana, a Republican from Montana, have added an amendment to the budget reconciliation bill that authorizes the sale of 258 million acres more than that 3.3 million acres over the next 5 years. It includes Bureau of Land Management land, and they manage all different kinds of U.S. recreation areas and wilderness areas and so on, and U.S. Forest Service lands in 11 states. Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico, Oregon, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming. You will notice there that Daines has managed to exempt his own state of Montana, where this is enormously unpopular. But in these 11 states, this would authorize the sale of those public lands of 258 million acres of them over the next 5 years. Now, currently, that does not include national monument lands, and national monuments are lands that have been protected for historic, prehistoric, or scientific interests. So that's going to be, the most obvious of those is the Grand Canyon, although we have many of
tar pits.
Currently, those are not included, but the Department of Justice under Trump is arguing that a president has the right to revoke protections that have been afforded to national monuments. And the reason for this is because Trump and his people want significantly to reduce the land that people like President Joe Biden put into protection as national monuments. So if in fact they prevail, and there are indications that the Supreme Court doesn't necessarily think that's a bad idea, in fact, these sales could include the national monuments. Right now it doesn't, but they could. And again, this is an issue that I think Americans care deeply about. We do not want our public lands sold off. And yet they're trying to do this under the budget reconciliation measure because they can do it with just a simple majority under budget reconciliation. They cannot do it under the normal procedures of the Senate, where a filibuster could stop something like that. So this is something really important to have on your radar screen and to recognize that it's there. Now, the other thing and the other reason that the administration is pushing the budget reconciliation bill as quickly and as hard as it is, remember they have said they want it signed by July 4th, is because it has significant money in it to beef up the border protection and immigration, customs, and enforcement policies of the Trump administration. Because right now, ICE has spent so much money that it is virtually out of money, which by itself is illegal. You're not allowed to spend more money than you've got in the government. They're not supposed to be able to do that.
She admitted it in front of Congress.
They're running out of money, and they desperately want an injection of more money so that they can increase the deportations that apparently White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller wants so badly. He wants to have a million
no, I'm not on top
deportations
what I missed?
In Trump's first year in office, and they're running terribly, terribly behind, which is why you are getting these huge sweeps in which they are threatening people and taking people who are here legally. And today there has been an attack on yet another elected official by agents that appear to be ICE agents. I'm a little vague about that still, because they're all masked and they're not wearing badges and they're not wearing names. So for all I know, it's somebody they yanked off the street. That is something I think we need to clear up. Anyway, the budget reconciliation bill gives ICE and border protection a lot more money than they've got. Significantly, it also dramatically beefs up funding to the U.S. military to almost $1 trillion, or about $1 trillion.
I could be lagging too.
Which is a significant jump. And as observers have pointed out, right now the U.S. military is primarily involved in attacking the U.S. So that's another reason that they want to get that bill through very quickly. It's probably a very good thing for you to be speaking up against those measures, as well, obviously, as the ones I've talked about so much. The cuts to Medicaid, the cuts to SNAP, the cuts to the clawback of money from the Inflation Reduction Act, and the cuts to energy rebates to enable people more easily to convert to forms of energy and appliances, for example, that are better for the environment.
I love you, Heather. All right, so that was a really good piece, because I didn't even I wondered about the land purchases and all that stuff. And I also think of that in relation to, and Tina's ears will tingle when I say this, but I also think of that in relation to their plans for some kind of wealth fund here in the United States, which God knows where that money is going to be going. And he's intimated that all kinds of revenue would be going into that wealth fund. I hesitate to call it a sovereign wealth fund, but you know what I'm talking about. Because that's come up, but we haven't really talked recently about it. At least I haven't. So that's something to be aware of. Wow. Wow. Hi, Josh. How are you, darling? I hope you're enjoying your coffee. I'm enjoying mine. You know what I started doing? Well, I clearly need some sleep. But you know what I started doing is I got this college. It's a, what is it? It's, oh boy. Life of Nature, Nature of Life, or something like that. But it's like a collagen, whatever, but it's for your joints, your skin, your hair, whatever. And it has like a little bee energy stuff in it. I really do actually, I feel better having it. But of course I'm like a total, right now I'm really high. That's pretty much what it is. Anyway, thank you, Heather Richardson, for not angel paste. Nope. No angel paste for me. Remember I had that fight with the angel paste lady? I said, why are you on a fascist network? She said, because I'm a fascist. And I went, oh, okay. Thanks for clearing that up. Angel paste. Wait, let me just make sure, because I know this day has been very, very packed full of nuts. I guess that's enough. I mean, I feel like I've overstimulated myself as well as everyone else at this point, or understimulated. That's probably my worst nightmare. But thank you for coming tonight. Oh, We're going to watch a movie tonight. So tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific, different time, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, so a little more early for my school nighters, my school night kids. Just a bit earlier in the evening. We're going to re-show Mountainhead. So if you've already seen it, obviously you don't need to come if you don't want to. But we invite you all to come and be part of our Discord family. Well, not family because we're not family, but you know what I'm saying. Group. Come into the Discord, and tonight we're going to replay Mountainhead, which is the new movie from HBO about tech bros. And it's kind of a nutty film. Judge for yourself. And but be prepared for some wild rides and terrible references in terms of just how terrible tech bros are. I mean, they're terrible people in this context, certainly. So join us tonight on Discord for that. And then just another programming note. Tomorrow morning, of course, I'll be here with Wake and Bake. It's Thursday. Yeah, I'll be here with Wake and Bake tomorrow morning. I thought, we really had some good information. So tomorrow morning, Wake and Bake. Tomorrow night, in honor of Juneteenth, we are going to open the Discord movie room again, this time at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. All of this will be on my social media, so you don't have to remember it if you don't want to at all, really. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But we're going to show a documentary put out by PBS titled Juneteenth, Faith and Freedom. And it's about an hour, so it's a shorter documentary, but I'm very much I haven't seen it. I'm very much looking forward to seeing it on the occasion of Juneteenth and in honor of that. Last night we watched The 13th. Again, I'm highly recommending that as a great documentary in terms of some foundational knowledge. It's really beautifully laid out and storied. So I would highly recommend that. That's The 13th, and it's on Netflix still. So so we did that last night, and then Friday we'll have a more lighter film, and then Max has already offered a beautiful selection for our midnight Max Flower Film Festival selection. So you'll just have to wait and see what that's all about. Or if you join the Discord, you get to be part of the fun. Anyway, thanks for coming. I really appreciate you spending some of your morning with me. I'm deeply honored. You have a lot of choices when it comes to YouTube streets. I'm glad you stopped at mine. I'll see you probably tonight on Discord, and we'll see. We got to get that dino back in the street. I don't know what the fuck she's doing. Pull your shit together, Granny. Yes, I know, baby. Oh, Carrie, I know you're all the way across the pond. Across the pond. All right. Love you, my dears. Thank you again. It's really been an honor to be with you this morning. And I will see you later. And let's